Chapter 113. The last stone ape was almost scared out of its wits. Seeing its companions die one by one, it opened its mouth wide and screamed. It turned around and ran. Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This stone ape was a 4,000-year-old spirit beast, yet it was so cowardly that no one could see through it. Crash! The green gourd vine broke through the stone and quickly bound the stone ape. The strength of the gourd vine was closely related to the strength of Lin Muyu's battle energy. No matter how the stone ape struggled, it couldn't escape the binding of the gourd vine. Lin Muyu's palms were filled with raging flames. She quickly spun the long sword in front of her chest. Streams of flames turned into spiraling fire energy that lingered around the sword body. She quickly broke through the stone ape. The stone ape's skin was very thick. The normal attack of the burning prairie sword couldn't penetrate it at all. However, it was a piece of cake to use the spiraling power to break through it. Bang! The stone layer shattered and mixed with blood. The stone ape screamed and left with its companions. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. She used the spiraling break twice and the Xian energy of the first star. She had used about 30% of her battle energy. She didn't know if there were more powerful enemies waiting for her. She had to recover her strength as soon as possible. Holding the burning prairie sword, Xiaochen dug out two 4,000-year-old stone ape spirit stones from the skull of the three-headed stone ape. This was a type of rock-type spirit stone. If used to forge weapons, it would be very good. It would make attacks sturdy, and ordinary opponents would not be able to block it. Sitting on the ground, she summoned the martial spirit gourd to refine the spirit of wild beasts. However, what Lin Muyu didn't expect was that the 6-layered green gourd seemed to be very picky with its food. It didn't even absorb any spirit of wild beasts before it was full. After several attempts, he couldn't refine the spirit of wild beasts. He had to give up. It seemed that Lei Hong's teachings were correct. After stepping into the heavenly realm, they had to rely on refining the spirits of wild beasts to increase their cultivation. This was because the power that heavenly realm experts needed was Do Qi, and the spirit of wild beasts contained in the bodies of spiritual beasts was Earth Qi. The two belonged to different natures. If a heavenly realm expert wanted to increase his cultivation, he could only rely on his own hard work and cultivation. It was no wonder that Feng Jixing and Qin Lei had not broken through after stepping into the first layer of the heavenly realm. With their talent, they should have broken through quickly. However, Lin Muyu was not anxious. Although his strength was increasing slowly, it was very stable. This was because the mental cultivation method of the dragon forging bone remnant scroll could slowly increase his strength. At most, it would take 2 years, or at least half a year. It was only a matter of time before he stepped into the second tier of the heavenly realm. However, he was still a little impatient, especially after he witnessed Xiang Yu's strength. Xiang Yu was known as the #1 person in the younger generation of the empire. This was definitely not an undeserved reputation. With his strength alone, he could contend against Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and Lin Muyu. In the end, it could also be considered a draw. This was a little too shocking. Feng Jixing and Qin Lei, these two young elites, were both dragons among men, while Xiang Yu pretty much belonged to the category of dragons among dragons. When he thought of Xiang Yu's eyes that were filled with killing intent, Lin Muyu could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Xiang Yu's bloodline originated from Xiang Wentian. He had the right to be unruly. Furthermore, Xiang Yu wholeheartedly wanted to get rid of Feng Jixing. This point also made Lin Muyu worried. Feng Jixing's style of doing things was eclectic and open-minded. The Imperial Guard that he commanded had always been the strongest barrier of the Imperial capital. If Xiang Yu wanted to obtain the position of the #1 person in the Empire's army, he had to get rid of Feng Jixing. After adjusting his breathing for close to 2 hours, the martial spirit gourd greedily absorbed the spiritual energy in the surroundings. What made Lin Muyu more gratified was that the spiritual energy in the vicinity of Tong Tian Tower was very abundant. It was even more vigorous than in Lan Yen City. Therefore, the battle energy in his body had mostly recovered. It seemed that coming to Tong Tian Tower was not to throw away his life. Instead, it seemed that he had found the best place to cultivate. The night was long. He circulated the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll and the Spirit Pulse technique again and again to temper his body and soul. Meanwhile, the light from the oil lamp above his head flickered faintly. When dawn was about to break, his spiritual sense once again sensed a powerful force. Lin Muyu immediately became alert. He raised his hand and grabbed the hilt of his sword. Although the Spirit Pulse technique was mysterious, it could not extend to the third floor. It seemed that there was something restricting him on the second floor. It was like a barrier. The night wind blew on the holy temple's battle robe. At this moment, how could he care about the cold? His clear eyes were like twinkling stars in the night sky as he stared at the stairs in the distance. However, he did not see anyone. He did not even see a spiritual beast. Could it be a false alarm? At this moment, the spiritual pulse technique suddenly pulsated not far away, and a surge of energy leaped up. Lin Muyu let out a low grunt, and raised her hand to unleash a blazing hot douqi storm. Voila! The douqi swept across the ground and quickly blew out a human figure. As expected, the person who came was invisible. It was a very thin person with 2 daggers in his hands. The shape of his face looked very twisted and strange. It was like the face of an ugly monkey. His beard was not long, but every strand of it was like iron thorns piercing out of his skin. Fortunately, the Spirit Pulse technique could sense him. Otherwise, he would have been ambushed by this person. Who are you? Lin Muyu held the sword in his hand and asked calmly. The person licked his lips. His expression was indescribably wretched. He said, "It has been many years since someone was sent to Tong Tian Tower. I thought that the empire was safe and sound. I did not expect that a new person would come today. Hee, kid, you are only my prey. Wait until you go to hell and ask me who I am." As he said that, he suddenly waved his dagger. A milky white light appeared on his arm, douqi. Another heaven realm rancor. Although the dagger was short, the douqi that surged out was at least 2 meters long. Lin Muyu quickly got into position. The wall of the gourd was placed in front of his chest to block the opponent's attack. However, he only felt his blood boil. The strength of the person's douqi was stronger than his. Dang dang dang. Her dagger was parried by the burning prairie sword several times in a row. Lin Muyu looked for an opportunity and gave a heavy kick. Douqi shrouded her combat boots and sent her opponent flying a few steps back. The burning prairie sword flashed and instantly unleashed 5 slashes. This was the speed formula of the Imperial Wind Sword technique. The storm-like attacks could catch the opponent off guard. However, the thin assassin in front of him was not weak. His eyesight was excellent. With a flick of his wrist, the dagger danced like a butterfly, dispelling all of Lin Muyu's attacks. However, a trace of surprise appeared on his face. He did not think that this kid who had just been sent to Tong Tian Tower would be so strong. Pa. Lightning flashed. Lin Muyu directly threw the burning prairie sword, using the thunder sword technique to attack the opponent. The assassin was stunned. He had never seen such an attack pattern before. He quickly brandished his dagger to parry the attack. Clang! He managed to parry the attack, but his arms suddenly went numb. Lin Muyu's attack was too strong. Damn it! He cursed and roared in rage, Yisha. In the darkness, his martial spirit was quickly released. It was like a ball of dark elements surrounding his body. Immediately after, the space seemed to distort and turned into a chaotic darkness. The assassin's figure disappeared again. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. She finally understood why this person could become invisible. It turned out that he was relying on the power of his martial spirit to cover his eyes. She quickly activated the spirit pulse technique and sensed every trace of power in the surroundings. As long as the opponent attacked, his aura would definitely fluctuate strongly. At that time, she would not have to worry about not being able to find his position. However, this assassin seemed to be very patient. He did not appear for a full 10 minutes. Lin Muyu frowned. She could not help but feel a little anxious. At this moment, a cold wind suddenly blew in front of her chest. The opponent's two daggers had joined together and launched an attack. It was similar to Lin Muyu's fire sword technique. His daggers were surrounded by a spiral of dark energy, which quickly broke through the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall. So strong. The defensive layer was broken through. There was no way to dodge. Either his heart would be pierced, or he would choose to attack other parts of his body. In a flash, Lin Muyu reacted. She moved half a meter with the star steps. In the next moment, she felt a sharp pain in her arm. A dagger had pierced through her arm and she was nailed to the stone wall. Hey! The opponent showed an ugly smile. I've already said, you are my prey. Any resistance is futile. Is that so? Lin Muyu smiled coldly. The power of her martial spirit spread out in an instant. Vines extended from the ground. It was another entanglement ability, which quickly bound the opponent's feet. Damn it! The assassin glanced at the vines on his feet and said, "How dare you show off in front of me with such insignificant skills?" He stomped his foot and unleashed his combat energy, shattering countless vines. However, when he looked up, he saw a calabash spitting poison at him. Chi armor. He let out a low grunt, and his chi armor blew away the poisonous liquid. However, at this moment, he felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. It was Lin Muyu's full-force punch. Two luminaries' demonic dance. With the sound of ribs breaking, the assassin retreated with a pale face and fell to the ground. The power of the two luminaries' demonic dance was so powerful that he could not withstand it at all. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. She endured the pain and pulled out the dagger from her arm. She looked at it. Fortunately, there was no poison on it. She quickly took out a bottle of healing medicine and poured it on the dagger. She then looked at the assassin who was struggling on the ground and said, "Do you still think I'm your prey now?" The assassin exhaled more than he inhaled. He was about to die, but he still grinned and said, "You. So what if you kill me? The Blood Lord will not let you go." "Heh, Blood Lord?" Lin Muyu frowned. "Who is the Blood Lord?" The assassin did not speak. He tilted his head and died decisively. Lin Muyu was filled with hatred. It seemed that this invisible assassin was not the leader of the upper floors. It was already a little difficult for her to deal with this assassin. If the Blood Lord came personally, would she still have a chance? She bent down and searched the assassin's body. She found 2 diamond coins and a spiritual stone. She felt the spiritual power of the stone. It should be a fire spiritual stone that was around 5,000 years old. Not bad. Chapter 114. In the Zetian Palace Hall, a group of 12 maids were holding candles and lighting up the Xieji Palace lanterns. The candlelight shone on the white jade floor like flashing red stars. The late autumn breeze blew and the candlelight began to sneeze. One of the maids couldn't help but sneeze and said in a low voice, "The weather is getting colder." The maids whispered a few words and left the main hall of the Zetian Palace Hall, leaving only the bright moonlight shining on the floor tiles of the main hall. Whoosh whoosh, the night breeze ruffled her dark purple cloak. Qin Yin frowned slightly and walked quickly on the long corridor of the palace. The maids behind her could barely keep up with her. One of them said, "Your Highness, please slow down." However, Qin Yin's speed was not slow. She leaped and landed on the surface of the lotus pond in the pavilion. A ripple spread out, and this beautiful princess had already landed on the other side of the pavilion. Her snow-white skin was glowing with a faint golden light, and her god-binding chains martial soul was already on the verge of being released. The temple warriors hurriedly stopped her and said, "Your Highness, what are you doing?" "I want to see my father. His Majesty has already gone to bed. He has ordered that no one is to disturb him." "Then I want to see him too." Qin Yin raised her brows and her beautiful face was filled with charming arrogance. She insisted, "If you don't move aside, don't blame me for making a move." The guards looked helpless. At this moment, Qin Jin's voice came from inside the room. "Let Xiao Yin in." "Yes, Your Majesty." Qin Yin pushed the door open and entered. She saw Qin Jin reading a scroll under the candlelight. His face was full of fatigue, and under the candlelight, this 47-year-old emperor's hair had already turned white. Qin Yin's heart ached when she saw this, and she called out, "Father." She didn't call for her father. Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh. He raised his head to look at his daughter and said, "It's been a long time since you called me that. Back then, I wanted you to call me Imperial Father, but I had to teach you for a very, very long time." Qin Yin's eyes reddened. She walked forward and gently knelt down in front of the table. The girl's beautiful hair flowed down her shoulders and fell on the files on the table. She looked at her father and suddenly didn't know what to say. "Are you here to plead for Lin Muyu?" Qin Jin asked. "Yes." Qin Yin nodded her head and said, "Father, Lin Muyu is an extremely simple and persistent person. I can almost guess that he wouldn't sit idly by when he saw Ying Ji being humiliated. He is just that kind of personality. You can't blame him for bringing people to destroy the nursery hall. Just like what Master Lei Hong said, the nursery hall has always lost its humanity, isn't it?" Qin Jin looked at his daughter with gentle eyes. I know everything. How can Imperial Father not understand what kind of person Lin Muyu is? But, there should be a limit to how much he hates evil. As a member of the Imperial Guard, he personally brought people to destroy the nursery hall and publicly disrupted the Empire's military deployment. If it were anyone else, they would have been beheaded long ago. But Father. Qin Yin pursed her red lips, her beautiful eyes filled with stubbornness as she said, "Ah, you is my savior. If it wasn't for him, I would have died from poisoning in the dragon-seeking forest a long time ago. Just based on this alone, Father should be exceptionally kind to him." Qin Jin's eyes dimmed. "Xiao Yin, there are many things you don't understand. You're still young, what do I not understand?" "Father, tell me. You weren't in the Great Hall today, so you don't know the Divine Marquis and the Minister's words." Qin Jin sighed. Half of the Qin Empire was conquered by Xiang Wentian. In the Empire's military, Xiang Wentian is a god and his status far surpasses that of an emperor like me. Xiao Yin, do you know that the commanders of the 4 armies stationed in the Lingnan region haven't participated in the annual military reward ceremony for 3 whole years? Even when Imperial Father sent them a written order, they didn't reply. Qin Yin was stunned. "Father, are you saying that the commanders of the Lingnan region have intentions of rebelling?" "I don't know about that." Qin Jin narrowed his eyes. 3 of the commanders are Xian Yifan's trusted aides, but the last one is an old general left behind by the late emperor, Fan Kai. If even he has intentions of rebelling, I'm afraid that Lanyan City's control over the entire world will change. That's why I suspect that someone is intercepting letters from Lanyan City in the Qinling Mountains. Qin Yin bit her red lips. "Father, why don't we send someone to Lingnan to take a look?" "There's no need." Qin Jin heaved a sigh of relief and lay down on the chair behind him. Xian Yifan submitted a report this morning stating that the major armies of Lingnan are at war with the barbarians at the southern border, so communication is inconvenient. The birds used to deliver the letters have been shot down by the southern barbarians, so the letters can't be delivered to the commanders. However, Xian Yifan's report also contained a letter of allegiance. It's a joint letter from the 4 commanders, and their loyalty to the empire remains unchanged. Qin Yin looked at her father with her beautiful eyes. Father, although the Divine Marquis has great influence in the empire's army, but father should be able to see that Xian Yifan is no longer the Xian Yifan from 10 years ago. He has changed too much, becoming more arrogant and willful. He doesn't even respect you, the emperor, in his eyes. Why don't? She blinked. Secretly order Brother Qin Lei and Commander Feng Jixing to find a chance to dissolve the Divine Marquis' military power in Lanyan City? How? Qin Jin sighed and looked at his daughter dotingly. The Divine Marquis' power in the Empire's army is already well established. As long as Xian Yifan doesn't have any rebellious thoughts, it's fine. Moreover, the Qin Empire has ruled the world for thousands of years and had nearly 100 emperors. The Qin bloodline has long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Xian Yifan's surname alone is enough to prevent him from ascending the throne. But. Qin Yin bit her red lips. If we blindly allow Xian Yifan's power to grow, how will we live in the future? Don't worry, Qin Jin said. At least the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards are still in the hands of our own people. I've also secretly met with the vassals of Cangnan Province and Northern Province. With Duke Kenglin and Duke Muyun in charge of the northern region, the world won't be in chaos. Oh right, Xiao Yin, you haven't seen your grandfather for a long time, right? Grandfather. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. He's busy with work. It's been a long time since he came to Lanyan City to see me. Qin Jin couldn't help but smile. Then in a few days, I'll let General Feng personally lead the Imperial Guards to escort you to Muyu City to see your grandfather. Muyu City is where your mother grew up. You should have gone to see it long ago. Okay. Qin Yin nodded and suddenly changed the topic. Father, is there really no way to release you from the Tower of Babel earlier? He might be able to hold on for 1 or 2 days, but he'll definitely die in the Tower of Babel if it's any longer. I really can't. Qin Jin shook his head and sighed. If I release Lin Muyu earlier, Xian Yifan and Luo Xing will definitely put pressure on me. Maybe then they'll find a reason to rebel. Then. Alright then. Can I go to the Tower of Babel to see you? Qin Jin's tone immediately became stern. You're not allowed to go to the Tower of Babel. That's a forbidden area. Lin Muyu can die there, but you can't. Xiao Yin, don't forget that you're the heir of the family. Your status is different. Qin Yin's eyes were red and filled with tears. She looked at her father faintly and stood up to bow like a lady. Then, she turned and left. When she was a few meters away from the door, she suddenly stopped and said softly, Father, if Lin Muyu dies in the Tower of Babel, I'm afraid I'll never forgive you. Creak, the door opened and Qin Yin floated away. Qin Jin stared blankly at the empty door. He couldn't help but shiver in the cold wind. The weather was getting colder and colder. He muttered to himself and felt a strange feeling in his heart. He was proud to have such an outstanding daughter, but at the same time, he was worried for her. Qin Yin was so kind, so she was probably not suitable to be the heir of the family. The only thing he could do was to handle the relationship between Qihai City, Muyu City, and Lanyan City. Muyu City was one of the 7 famous cities of the empire. It was guarded by Su Muyun, the father of Qin Yin's mother, Empress Jingda. Muyu City had a strong army with more than 200,000 soldiers. Qihai City was one of the 7 famous cities of the empire. It was guarded by Tang Xiaoxi's grandfather, Tang Lan. Its army was in no way inferior to Muyu City. Moreover, the Qihai Tang sect had long been established in Qihai City. This was also the biggest reason why Qin Jin had allowed Qin Yin to have such a close relationship with Tang Xiaoxi since she was young. Perhaps the relationship between Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi could maintain the close ties between Lanyan City and Muyu City? After thinking for a long time, this late emperor stood up and went to rest. That night, Lin Muyu did not sleep at all. He was constantly on guard against any enemies that might come at any time. However, after that assassin, no one else came looking for trouble with him. Instead, he practiced the dragon forging bone remnant scroll again and again. That night, he went through 72 circulations a few times and the strength of his Do Qi increased by quite a bit. When a ray of light shone on the wall, he knew that it was dawn. After eating some dry rations, he hugged his long sword and went to sleep. He did this repeatedly, sleeping during the day and resting at night. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed, and he hadn't been ambushed again. However, there was a problem that was bothering him. The corpse in front of him and the stone ape's corpses were emitting a faint stench. If he just left them like this, they would rot very quickly. When that happened, he would only be able to harm himself. After thinking about it, he decided that he had to get rid of these corpses. He reached out and grabbed the assassin's leg, dragging him step by step towards the stairs. The assassin was already dead. His head was banging against the stone steps, but he probably didn't feel any pain anymore. He released the spirit pulse technique and entered the second floor. He didn't find any enemies, so he directly went up to the second floor. However, the scene in front of him shocked Lin Muyu. The second floor was filled with skeletons, and piles of white bones were scattered everywhere. Needless to say, the people who were imprisoned in the Tower of Babel were not killed immediately. Many people were like him, dealing with the corpses here, and in the end, he became one of the corpses. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but shiver. He muttered to himself, Sora Aoi, Hatano Yui, Okita Aoi, and other teachers, please bless me so that I don't die here. Chapter 115. After throwing the corpses on the ground, he dragged the corpses of the 3 stone apes up and put them together. The burning prairie sword released fire elements and burned these corpses. If they were allowed to rot on their own, the corpse chi would be enough to make Lin Muyu fall seriously ill. At that time, he would probably die without anyone doing anything. He glanced at the stone steps leading to the 3rd floor. It was empty, but his spiritual perception felt different. The stone steps were filled with an awe-inspiring aura. Lin Muyu took a deep breath, picked up a stone from the ground, and threw it with force. Bang! The stone instantly turned into powder, and a red ripple spread out. There was indeed a blood-red barrier on the stone steps. No wonder his spiritual perception couldn't detect what was on the 3rd floor. At this moment, an awe-inspiring voice came from the 3rd floor. Do you want to see me? Then come, he he he. This voice was like a malicious spirit from purgatory, and it made people's hair stand on end. Although Lin Muyu was arrogant, he knew his limits. He didn't think of going to the 3rd floor to die, so he turned around and went back to the 1st floor without looking back. If his spiritual perception couldn't pass through the barrier, he wouldn't be able to determine the strength of his opponent. It was better not to try. Pata, the small door on the metal door opened, and a heavy bag of food was placed inside. They were all pancakes, the dry rations of the Empire's army. With Lin Muyu's appetite, he could eat about 4 pancakes in one meal, and there were close to 100 pancakes in the bag. There were also 7 or 8 bulging water bags beside it. A soldier's voice came from outside. Lin Muyu, I don't know if you're dead or not. This is your rations for 7 days. If you're not dead, throw something out so that I can report. Lin Muyu threw an empty water bag out from the small door. Immediately, the lieutenant chuckled. You're actually not dead? You're really lucky. Lin Muyu frowned and looked through the small door. This person was a lieutenant of the military police battalion. No wonder he was so arrogant. Xiangyu wished that he could immediately die in Tong Tian Tower. She couldn't see too far through the small door, but she could see a flag fluttering about a mile away. It was the battle flag of the Imperial Army. The huge golden shield emblem was very eye-catching, and Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel warmth in her heart. After storing the food in a ventilated and dry place, he continued to sit cross-legged and cultivate. At night, the crimson vortex in the skies above Skysplit Tower began to spin. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled. The sound of thunder shook Skysplit Tower, as if even this great tower was afraid of the might of the heavens. Lin Muyu sat in the tower, cultivating her spirit pulse technique. She frowned. Looking at the terrible weather, it seemed that tonight would not be a safe night. He lit the brazier and continued to cultivate silently. The lightning and thunder outside did not seem to affect him at all. After an unknown period of time, Lin Muyu's heart suddenly moved. Her spirit pulse technique detected that a strong force had entered the second floor of Skysplit Tower. It must be something that came down from the third floor. Clang! With a wave of her hand, she pulled out the burning prairie sword. The incoming person was extremely fast. A gray shadow scuttled down the stone steps, accompanied by a hair-raising cry. It was a creature that looked like a deep-sea crustacean. Its back was covered with a thick shell, and its face was ferocious and terrifying. Its 4 legs stood on the ground, and its body was covered with spikes. Hee, when it screamed, those spikes all stood up, and it suddenly looked like a frightening hedgehog. What the hell is this? Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and raised her hand to summon the wall of the gourd. The mystic tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall were quickly activated. It was necessary to maintain the best defense against this kind of thing. Brother. Lulu's voice came from the E-high. This is a thorn demon, a type of scavenging creature. Be careful of its poisonous spikes, these stab wounds are all poisonous. Lin Muyu nodded her head. Her gaze swept across the top of the thorn demon's head. There were 5 golden lines and 1 silver line. This was a 5,100-year-old spiritual beast. Lin Muyu had killed many spiritual beasts before, but it was the first time she had seen such an ugly one. The thorn demon was not in a hurry to attack. Instead, it slowly walked to a position that was less than 20 meters away from Lin Muyu. Suddenly, it screamed loudly and spun its body, shooting more than 10 poisonous spikes through the air. Pa pa pa, the poisonous spikes were perfectly blocked by the wall of the gourd. Lin Muyu raised her hand and threw out the demon noise blade. With a sharp whistle, the demon noise blade went straight for the thorn demon's neck. However, the thorn demon's speed became faster. It twisted its body and used the shell on its back to block the demon noise blade. With a dang sound, the demon noise blade actually did not pierce through and was instead rebounded. Jia jia. The thorn demon roared and rushed over. It opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of poisonous liquid. Lin Muyu hurriedly increased the strength of the gourd's battle energy. With a pa 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 sound, the poisonous liquid was completely blocked. At the same time, she raised her right hand and sent out a thunderous wild wave. Pung! The prairie fire sword flew up and the thorn demon's abdomen shell was pierced through. Green poisonous liquid was flowing out. Roar! The thorn demon seemed to want to risk its life. It quickly crawled over. Its 2 short front legs suddenly extended from its body. It was actually 2 front legs that were like choppers. It slashed at the wall of the gourd. A wave of pain came over. A 5,100-year-old spiritual beast was indeed not ordinary. The thorn demon's knife arm directly tore through the black tortoise shell and slashed at the dragon scale wall. It directly injured the martial spirit and caused Lin Muyu's body to suffer a certain amount of pain. Lin Muyu couldn't care so much. He opened his palm and grabbed one of the knife arm. Immediately, a numbing feeling came from his palm. He quickly moved the longsword and filled his palm with the power of the true dragon essence fire. With a poochie sound, the longsword pierced through the thorn demon's body and created a 10-centimeter radius bloody hole. The green poisonous liquid flowed everywhere. However, the thorn demon's vitality was somewhat shocking. It let out a jijia sound and suddenly opened up all the barbs on its body. Pu sound, it randomly shot out. This thing wanted to perish together. Lin Muyu hurriedly retracted his hand. His entire body was under the protection of the gourd and wasn't injured at all. However, when he turned around, he discovered that 7 or 8 bulging water bags were all pierced by the thorn demon's poisonous thorns. The water was flowing all over the ground. This was his 7 days of drinking water. In an instant, Lin Muyu's heart felt as though there were 1,000,000 grass mud horses galloping in his heart. He turned around and glared at the thorn demon. His face was filled with killing intent as he growled, "Motherf *Ker, compensate me for my Nongfu spring water." He raised his fist, blood spiraled and his demonic energy surged, 2 luminaries' demonic dance. Bang! With a heavy strike, the thorn demon's huge body was sent flying like a ball. It hit the stone wall and bounced back, but it still didn't die. It stood up with a jijia sound and shot another wave of poisonous thorns at Lin Muyu. However, all of them were blocked by the wall of the gourd. This thorn demon was unlucky to encounter Lin Muyu's perfect defense. If it was Feng Jixing's purple electric flame wolf or Zhang Wei's fire bear, they might have been poisoned. Wang! The flame spiraled around the longsword, and the second spiraling break once again tore a huge bloody hole on the thorny devil's body. Lin Muyu leapt up and grabbed the spinning longsword. The blade was filled with true dragon primary fire, and she suddenly slashed down. Bang! The flames surged and directly burned the thorn devil into a pile of ashes. Hoo! Lin Muyu was panting heavily. She found a spirit stone in the ashes. It was a 5,100-year-old thorny demon spirit stone. It was a poison-type spirit stone that contained lethal poison. If it was used to forge weapons, it would be a naturally poisonous weapon. Although it was not very sinister, it must be very powerful. However, when she turned around and saw the water stains on the ground, Lin Muyu was incomparably depressed. Drinking water would be a problem. After all, with her flesh and blood body, she would not be able to last for a month without drinking water. She might not even be able to last for 7 days. As a cultivator, her strength was very strong, but her dependence on food and water was higher than an ordinary person. He continued to sit cross-legged and cultivate. At the same time, he recovered his battle chi and stamina. One by one, the spirit beasts came down to die. It made him feel uneasy. These spirit beasts seemed to be raised by someone. However, who had the ability to raise these spirit beasts? Moreover, the people at the upper levels did not have food and water. What did they rely on to survive? Was it just to hunt the birds in the sky and drink their blood? When he thought of this, his body could not help but tremble. He looked up at the upper levels. There would not be anyone else coming tonight, right? However, he was wrong. When it was close to dawn, another force came from the 3rd level to the 1st level. Dang! Lin Muyu unsheathed the burning prairie sword and looked straight at the staircase. She saw a patch of fire illuminating the stone steps. In the next moment, a man in tattered armor slowly walked down the stairs. His right hand was extended horizontally, and a ball of purple flames danced continuously in his palm. He raised his head, revealing a face full of beard. On his forehead, there was a big cross, which seemed to be the insignia of a mercenary. This person was a mercenary in the past. Brat, not bad. Even Thorn Demon was killed by you. His eyes were filled with disdain. Lin Muyu frowned. Who are you? Me? He shook his head and seemed to be deep in thought. After thinking for a while, he smiled. I almost forgot who I am. I only remember that people gave me a nickname, Chi Gui. Heh, that's right, why do they call me Chi Gui? Probably because I have killed too many people. Saying that, he raised his head and looked at Lin Muyu. He grinned. You will be the next. Oh, you are also a gold star sparring master of the temple. But to die under my fist, it is not in vain. Are you done? If you are, then make your move. Lin Muyu said indifferently. Chi Gui's expression turned cold, flames crawled up his arms and a malevolent fiery red ghost martial spirit appeared behind him. It seemed that his name came from this fire attribute martial spirit. Wang, the fist energy was biting cold. Once he made his move, it could be seen, fiery fist. This person was using Xiang Wentian's famous fist technique, which was different from Zhang Wei's fiery soul fist. His fiery fist was purer, and its power was also much stronger. His Dou Qi was transformed into flames, and this flame force was not something that Zhang Wei's fist could produce. Chapter 116. Pung. The heavy punch landed on the mystic tortoise shell with an unstoppable force. In an instant, it shattered the mystic tortoise shell. Following that, the punch landed on the wall of the gourd, causing Lin Muyu to crash into the stone wall. With just one fist, Chi Gui's strength was already enough to suppress Lin Muyu. Xiao. The burning prairie sword struck back like lightning, piercing Chi Gui's eyes. Chi Gui let out a low roar and suddenly closed his arms, using his flesh and blood body to clamp the burning prairie sword. Lin Muyu saw that the situation was bad and reacted quickly. Her left hand hooked upwards with a blood-colored energy, one glorious life chaos. Pung! Chi Gui's body trembled as his body protecting Dou Qi scattered, unable to withstand the impact of the seven glorious profound energy. However, his arms still tightly clamped the burning prairie sword. Lin Muyu simply released the hand holding the sword and opened her palm, using fire to control the sword. The burning prairie sword trembled as it quickly spun with the sword as the axis. Streams of true dragon essence flames formed a cyclone around it. Instantly, Chi Gui's palm skin was quickly shredded and he could no longer hold the sword. Huh! This once famous mercenary king suddenly let go of the burning prairie sword and looked at Lin Muyu in shock. Without saying anything, he raised his fist and heavily smashed onto the burning prairie sword's blade. Dang! That was truly an iron fist as it forcefully deflected the spiraling sword. The iron fist took the opportunity to land on Lin Muyu's chest armor. With a muffled "pu" sound, Lin Muyu spat out a mouthful of blood as she retreated a few steps. The Dou Qi in her body quickly dissipated and she was no longer able to muster any strength to counterattack. Chi Gui's entire body was surrounded by raging flames as he looked at her arrogantly and said, "This daddy has been famous for 50 years and has long stepped into the third level of Heaven Realm. What kind of opponent have I not seen? I have lived in Tong Tian Tower for more than 10 years and you are the first person who can injure me. Heh, should I kill you today or spare you?" Lin Muyu was an unyielding young man. She took out a dozen diamond coins from her bosom and said, "I'll give you the money, and you'll spare my life. After 20 days, I will leave Skysplit Tower and we will mind our own business. Otherwise, if I were to risk my life, you might not be able to escape unscathed. We have no enmity between us, so why must we fight to the death?" Chi Gui was at least a level 80 and above Heaven Realm 3rd heavenly stage expert, with a cultivation close to the sacred domain. If he were to really fight, he would probably be even more terrifying than Xiang Yu. Against such an opponent, he had no chance of winning at all. Furthermore, he hadn't even grasped the third star of the 7 planets' profound energy, otherwise, he might be able to put up a fight. Ha ha ha, Chi Gui threw his head back and laughed. His expression was filled with disdain and arrogance. He glanced at Lin Muyu and said, "Brat, you're an interesting person. However, Blood Lord said that anyone who enters Tong Tian Tower can either obey him or die. Choose one. How do I obey? Follow me to the 3rd floor of Tong Tian Tower. 3rd floor? Lin Muyu furrowed his brows and said, what if I don't go? Don't worry, you'll go. Qi Gui's lips curled into a strange smile. He suddenly opened his palm and with a roar, a monstrous flame condensed around his body. With a hua-la, the flame spread out with him as the center, burning everything around him. Lin Muyu hurriedly stomped on the ground. The gourd martial spirit appeared around him and perfectly protected him, not allowing him to receive any damage. However, in the next moment, Lin Muyu even had the heart to die. Because the bag of dry rations placed in the corner had instantly turned into ashes. The flatbread had been completely burned into a pile of ashes, so how was he going to eat it? Qi Gui laughed and jumped up the stone steps. There's food in the 3rd floor, if you're not afraid of death, then come. His figure flashed and disappeared into the darkness. The kerosene was also burned in an instant and the 1st floor entered complete darkness. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth as she stood there. First, the water bag was destroyed by the thorn demon, and now, even the dry rations were burned by Qi Gui. It seemed that Blood Lord really wanted her to go to the 3rd floor. To go or not to go, this was the question. If she went, her life and death would be uncertain. If she didn't go, she would starve to death here. The closest guard of Tong Tian Tower was a mile away. No matter how she called for them, they wouldn't be able to hear her. Moreover, the emperor had already ordered that no matter what happened in Tong Tian Tower, the people outside were not allowed to provide any help. Otherwise, they wouldn't be exiled from Tong Tian Tower. When he sat down, his stomach was already growling. Lin Muyu frowned. If she continued to starve, it would only get worse. As her stamina drained, her dou qi would also become weaker. Rather than that, it would be better to go to the 3rd floor to find that Blood Lord and see what he wanted to do. Moreover, the earlier she went, the more powerful her stamina and dou qi would be. Thus, she made up her mind. Sitting cross-legged, she used close to an hour to circulate the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll 72 times. Her stamina and dou qi had also recovered to their peak. She should be able to use the 1st and 2nd element of the 7 planets' profound energy a few more times. Let's go. Holding the burning prairie sword in her hand, she lightly spat out energy. Immediately, the sword lit up the surroundings. It was already close to dawn. Xianxia, stepping on the stone steps, she walked up to the 2nd floor. This place was still deathly silent. In the distance were the skeletons of the dead. She turned around the corridor and the stone steps to the 3rd floor appeared in front of her. However, to enter the 3rd floor, she had to pass through a blood-red barrier. Spreading out her spirit pulse technique, she could clearly feel that the barrier was only 2 meters away. Lin Muyu shook the tip of the sword and activated the power of the fire sword. Instantly, the true dragon essence fire lingered around the long sword and the dragon flame spiral break was quickly blasted over. Bang! The powerful true dragon's penetrating power directly pierced a big hole in the barrier. Without thinking, she followed the burning prairie sword into the 3rd floor. Her body was surrounded by the gourd walls and she had already entered her peak battle state. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. The 3rd floor was actually lit up with glass lamps. Furthermore, Qi Gui was smiling at her with his arms crossed. "Brat, you're finally here." Lin Muyu's eyes turned cold. "Qi Gui, what the hell are you trying to do? Where is that Blood Lord?" "I'm here." An indifferent voice sounded behind her. The next moment, Lin Muyu couldn't move at all. A tyrannical domain power had already formed a pressure on her. Another sacred domain expert. Pow! Pow! Waves of battle energy exploded around her like a white pear blossoming. Lin Muyu tried her best to control her body to resist the pressure. She even activated the true dragon essence fire, but it still didn't work. She gritted her teeth and roared angrily, activating the chaos of the common life. For a moment, the overbearing and vigorous 7 luminaries' profound energy rushed through her meridians and dissolved at least half of the pressure. He slowly turned around and looked at the Blood Lord with a cold gaze. However, he realized that the Blood Lord was wearing a red robe and was actually sitting on a black bear. He didn't even have legs. Why, are you surprised? The Blood Lord lifted his cloak and revealed an old face. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, as if he could see through Lin Muyu's thoughts. He smiled. What kind of monster do you think I am? Lin Muyu looked at the black bear that the Blood Lord was sitting on. The bear's body was extremely huge and as heavy as a tank. Moreover, there were a total of 12 golden lines and 18 lines on its forehead. This was a spiritual beast black bear that was 12,800 years old. The Blood Lord was indeed not an ordinary person. Otherwise, how could he possibly control a spiritual beast that was more than 10,000 years old? Xiao He was caught in the dragon-seeking forest 70 years ago. The Blood Lord stroked the black bear's head with his old palm and smiled. He's very obedient. When I first met him, Qin Jin hadn't even been born yet. Now, he's already sitting on the throne. There's a drastic change on the mainland every few decades, but the Qin family has always been able to sit on the throne. It's really puzzling. Lin Muyu frowned and thought that Qin Jin, the emperor, was actually quite benevolent. His heir, Qin Yin, was even more of a kind-hearted girl. The Qin family sitting on the throne was perhaps better than anyone else sitting on the throne. It looks like you've already developed feelings for Qin Yin. The Blood Lord's eagle eyes stared at Lin Muyu as if he could see through all of his thoughts. He laughed in a trembling voice. Since ancient times, being sentimental is troublesome. Young man, love is a double-edged sword. If you fall deeply into it, you'll only be the one who suffers. As a man of indomitable spirit, you should be able to ride on an iron horse and establish immortal achievements. Who exactly are you? Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. How can you see through my thoughts? He tried his best to restrain his thoughts. He must not continue to expose his inner thoughts. At the same time, he extended the spirit pulse technique. Immediately, waves of mysterious spiritual power spread around his body. In the depths of his Yi, the power of the spirit pulse technique detected an external spiritual power. It seemed to be the Blood Lord's mind-reading ability. At this moment, the Blood Lord's spiritual power attacked his Yi. In an instant, the depths of his Yi were filled with waves. The Blood Lord's spiritual power was like a gust of wind that set off waves that were tens of thousands of feet high. These waves rushed towards the sky as if they were possessed and were about to occupy the entire Yi. Once the Yi was occupied by the Blood Lord's spiritual power, what would that mean? Perhaps, his entire body would already be under his control. Lin Muyu hurriedly used all of his spiritual power to enter his Yi. In the next moment, he had already appeared in the Yi. He was still dressed in the Divine Temple's battle robe. He held the burning prairie sword in his hand and raised his palm. His Do Chi exploded in the air and immediately suppressed the towering waves. After all, he was in his Yi and this place belonged to him. However, the Blood Lord still did not seem to be willing to give up. The invisible spiritual power quickly urged the second attack. More and stronger waves once again rose to the sky. Lin Muyu stood majestically in the air of his Yi. He gritted his teeth and roared as he raised his right arm and shouted, "Two luminaries demonic dance." Waves of demonic power surged into the long sword. The burning prairie sword quickly turned into a long sword that could reach the sky. It slashed down with the power of the two luminaries' demonic dance. With a bang, the waves surged and forcefully pushed the Blood Lord's spiritual power back. This time, the power of the two luminaries' demonic dance was very strong. It seemed that even the 7 luminaries demon emperor who was sleeping in the depths of his high was angry. After all, he treated this place as his home. Now, there was another person who wanted to move in. Unknowingly, Lin Muyu and the 7 luminaries demon emperor teamed up for the first time. Chapter 117. Ah, the Blood Lord cried out in shock. His entire body swayed on the back of the battle bear. His face was slightly pale, probably because the 2 luminous demonic dance hit his soul. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense also slowly came out of high and returned to her body. She let out a sigh of relief, but her expression wasn't too good. She looked at the Blood Lord sternly and said, "Your mind-reading technique seems to have lost its effect. You must be using this method to control Qigui, the 3rd level of the heaven realm, right? Are you trying to use this method to control me?" The Blood Lord calmed himself down and smiled faintly. "Child, you are thinking too much. I just want to know more about you. If I wanted to kill you, I would have ordered Qigui to kill you an hour ago. I think you also know that Qigui can easily kill you." Lin Muyu didn't deny this and nodded. "Then why did you want me to come to the 3rd floor? Do you know who I am?" The Blood Lord smiled faintly. "Who?" "My name is Qin Hong. I am the younger brother of the current emperor, Qin Jin's grandfather." "What, you don't believe me?" The Blood Lord smiled faintly and suddenly raised his palm. Suddenly, a golden chain appeared in his palm. It was the God-binding lock. There was no stronger proof than this. Lin Muyu was secretly shocked. "Since you are from the Qin family, why are you imprisoned here?" The Blood Lord sneered. "Because of a mistake, I mobilized 300,000 soldiers from Tong Tian province and planned to take over Lanyan city to become the emperor. Unfortunately, time was not on my side. The rebellion failed and I was exiled to this Tong Tian tower. Kid, I just went into your high and understood some things. You don't belong to this world. Do you want to go back to your original world?" Lin Muyu was stunned. He came from another world and no one would believe him if he told them about it. However, the Blood Lord had the ability to read minds and he could do it. Looking at Lin Muyu's stunned expression, Blood Lord couldn't help but smile and said, "Your father, Lin Shun, must be very concerned about you right now, right? Besides, your original world was so colorful. You could run freely in the game, have brotherly love, and have colorful nightlife. That beautiful female DJ called Susan from Soho Bar might still be talking about you every day. Are you really willing to part with her? Don't you want to go back?" "I want to," he said in a low voice. Blood Lord laughed and said, "I do have a way that might allow you to cross dimensions and return to your original world. I just want to ask, are you willing to accept my help?" Lin Muyu immediately gathered his thoughts and continued to make a defensive posture in his high using the spirit pulse technique. He did not want Blood Lord to enter his high to continue reading his thoughts. He smiled and said, "What benefits will it bring you if you help me return to my original world?" "There's no need for benefits. I've been in this Tong Tian Tower for almost 100 years. What else can't I let go of? As long as I can help you, I'm very happy." Blood Lord spread his hands and looked like he was doing charity. Lin Muyu was completely on her guard now. It was unreasonable to help others for no reason, let alone someone like the Blood Lord. He was willing to kill his own brother for the throne. Such a person would definitely not help others for no reason. "Then tell me," Lin Muyu said lightly. Blood Lord caressed War Bear's head and said with a smile, "It's useless to say more. You'd better follow me to the top of the tower. Don't you want to see what's so special about the upper floors after entering the Tower of Babel?" Lin Muyu nodded. "Please lead the way. Little Black, let's go." War Bear roared and carried Blood Lord up to the 4th floor. Lin Muyu held the burning prairie sword and followed up cautiously. Qi cupped his fist and walked at the back, as if he was afraid that Lin Muyu would suddenly attack Blood Lord. The fourth floor was empty. There was nothing. The fifth floor was the same. The sixth floor was the same. Just like that, they climbed up floor by floor. When they reached the 17th floor, they could see the lightning and whirlpool outside through the small window. This place was extremely close to the blood whirlpool. When they stepped onto the 8th floor, they were only one step away. Hua hua hua, the wind was so strong that it was hard to open one's eyes. Blood Lord didn't move at all. He had already released his territory to resist any invasion. Lin Muyu released the wall of the gourd to protect herself. The 18th floor was the top of Tong Tian Tower. Looking around, one could see the entire Lanyan city and all the surrounding scenery. The people on the ground could never see the top of the tower, but the people on the top of the tower could see through the entire Lanyan city. It was really magical. Above their heads was the blood whirlpool. There seemed to be a strong suction force in the whirlpool that was sucking everything on the ground. Leaves were flying up from the ground and were sucked into the whirlpool. Lin Muyu's battle robe was also fluttering in the wind. Fortunately, his cultivation was already considered to be above average, so he could still withstand it. He glanced at Blood Lord with an indifferent expression. It seemed that Blood Lord had used the mind-reading skill to see everything about his original world, but not everything about the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so calm. After all, the existence of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was too shocking to the world. Squinting at the blood whirlpool in front of him, Lin Muyu asked, "What is this?" "A plain crack." Blood Lord smiled. "There is only one such crack in the world. You can reach another completely different plane after jumping through it. That's why I brought you here. Your world may be behind this demon eye, but you still need to wait a little longer." "Why?" Lin Muyu asked. "Because the plane behind this plain crack changes every 100 years. Now, the world behind the crack is the heavenly realm." "The heavenly realm?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "In other words, the heavenly realm." Blood Lord looked up and smiled. "The world of the Great Way is ever-changing. There are many people in the mortal world who only pursue immortality, but immortality is not attainable. The mortal body can't withstand the impact of the time sand of crossing planes. Child, there are only 2 ways for you to return to your original world. One is to become a god through cultivation. After stepping into the godly state, you can cross planes with your own strength. However, with your talent, I estimate that you will need at least a few hundred years of hard cultivation to step into the godly state. By then, your family will have died, so there's no point in going back. The other way is to cross the plane in front of you by force and enter the heavenly realm to quickly cultivate and become a god." Lin Muyu was stunned. She smiled. "If the heavenly realm is behind the plane crack, why don't you and Qi go there?" Blood Lord sighed. "My legs have been cut off, so I can't regrow them. Xiao He is a beast, so he can't enter the heavenly realm. Qi is even simpler. He is a mercenary king whose hands are stained with blood. His sins are too heavy, the time sand will definitely crush him into pieces. However, child, you are innocent and your body is the bloodline of a real dragon. You have the strongest physique in the world. The time sand won't be able to destroy your body, so you are the best candidate to enter the heavenly realm." "Really?" "Yes." The Blood Lord raised his hand, and an invisible force spread out. Suddenly, the bloody vortex in front of him slowly dispersed the blood qi, and the scenery on the other side of the crack also slowly emerged. It was a beautiful picture. There was a lush green jungle, and there were mountains floating above it. On the mountains, there were many spirit palaces, crowned cranes, and auspicious clouds lingering. One could even see celestials flying between the mountains, riding on the clouds and mist from afar. "This is the heavenly realm?" Lin Muyu's eyes widened. She was a little dazed. She thought that the scenery was really good. The 3D image was really amazing. Yes, this is the heavenly realm. Blood Lord smiled. The process of you passing through the time sand will take about 15 minutes. With your bloodline of a real dragon, you will definitely be able to withstand it. If you want to become an expert that enters the godly state, then you don't have to hesitate anymore. However, I won't force you. If you are timid and only want to stay in the Shattered Cauldron Realm mainland, I won't blame you. At this moment, the 7 luminaries' demon emperor's mocking laughter suddenly came from the depths of Lin Muyu's heart. This old bastard, he actually thinks he can deceive me like this? Lin Muyu, if you want to die, then go over. I guarantee that you will die a horrible death. Why? Lin Muyu asked using his E-high. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor's voice was very sharp. He. What is on the other side of this space fissure, you will know once you pass through it with your spiritual sense. Why do you need to ask me? This reminded Lin Muyu. He immediately calmed his mind and activated the spiritual pulse technique. His spiritual sense directly flew out of his body and went straight to the space fissure. The moment he passed through the fissure, he only saw the beautiful scenery of the heavenly realm disappear instantly. Instead, it was replaced by a bloody purgatory. An endless sea of blood-red magma floated in the sea, screaming mournfully. On top of a lonely mountain, a giant whose lower body was buried in the rocks roared angrily, "Qin Hong, you bastard, why aren't you sending me fresh souls? If you don't, I, the Flame Spirit Ghost King, will make you wish you were dead." Lin Muyu was slightly stunned and quickly withdrew his spiritual sense. Phew, he let out a sigh of relief and glanced at the Blood Lord. He smiled and said, "Since you can't enter the heavenly realm by yourself, how about I carry you and fly into the heavenly realm together? We can become gods together. How about that?" The Blood Lord was stunned and understood something. He laughed and said, "Sure enough, I can't fool you. That's right, behind the space fissure is actually the 11th level of purgatory. It is guarded by the Flame Spirit Ghost King. The Flame Spirit Ghost King needs fresh souls for his cultivation, so I sent most of the people who entered the Tower of Babel there. He will give me the lifespan I need. As for you, you are a little special, you actually didn't fall for it." As he said, the Blood Lord raised his palm and his battle energy revolved. He said, "Since you are not willing to enter, then I will personally send you in." Lin Muyu let out a low shout and activated the wall of the gourd. He held the burning prairie sword in his hand and the fire dragon sword spirit roared continuously. He was ready to attack. At that instant, the 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch spoke in Lin Muyu's will see all of a sudden, "Lin Muyu, don't die for nothing. Listen to me and jump into the crack of the plane. I'll help you defeat the Fire Essence Ghost Emperor." "You can defeat the Flame Spirit Ghost King?" Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor couldn't hide the contempt in his voice. "In the words of your world, a trash like the Flame Spirit Ghost King isn't even fit to carry my shoes." Chapter 118. "Senior, please stop." Lin Muyu suddenly raised her arm and a bright smile appeared on her face. "You are the senior of the Qin family. Look at me, I am also a member of the Qin family's Imperial Guard. We can't fight among ourselves, right? How about this, I am willing to jump into this plane crack. You don't have to do anything. How about that? What the hell are you doing?" The Blood Lord raised his eyebrows and said, "If you want to jump, jump quickly. Don't talk nonsense here." "All right." Lin Muyu turned around and quickly raised her battle energy to its peak. She stomped on the top of the tower and jumped into the plane crack. Since she would be killed by the Blood Lord if she stayed here, she might as well try her luck in purgatory. The 7 luminaries demon emperor shared a body with her, so he wouldn't let her die. However, she couldn't trust the 7 luminaries demon emperor completely. This demon wasn't a good person either. Since the worst outcome was death, she had to try it if there was a chance. Buzz. Her ears were ringing. The moment Lin Muyu entered the plane crack, she felt like she was suffocating. Her body was constantly twisting. The feeling of crossing through the plane wasn't pleasant. Streaks of fiery red light kept hitting her body. This was the time quicksand that the Blood Lord mentioned. However, it was a very hot quicksand. The burning sensation almost made Lin Muyu faint. She hurriedly channeled her martial soul and battle energy to protect her body. However, the moment her martial soul was summoned, it was shattered by the quicksand. The battle robe on her back caught fire immediately and was burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. Fortunately, the pants and leggings of the Holy Palace battle robe were made of cowhide. The cowhide was very precious and was resistant to fire and water. Not long after, the armor of the Holy Palace battle robe turned red and began to melt and peel off piece by piece. Lin Muyu was distressed. This handsome battle robe was gone just like that. After another minute, his combat boots were also melted. He could only fly barefoot in the quicksand, following the airwaves. His upper body was completely exposed. His strong muscles and strong physique made him a little proud, but his pride was soon drowned by the burning pain. Every inch of his skin was suffering, but the true dragon blood flowing in his veins protected his skin from being burned. What was even more amazing was that even his handsome short hair was not burned. Otherwise, it would not look good if he was bald. The whole process took about 5 minutes. He rushed out of the crack and turned into a flaming meteor, crashing to the ground. The location happened to be the lonely mountain in the sea of lava. As soon as Lin Muyu opened her eyes, she saw that she was about to crash. She hurriedly channeled her martial soul. The wall of the gourd touched the ground first, and she slid dozens of meters away with her body. As soon as she looked up, she saw the horrifying half-rotten face of the fire spirit ghost king. He looked at her while laughing. Finally, there's fresh flesh to eat again. Ha ha ha. That's great. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Are you sure you won't break your big teeth? You're courting death. The fire spirit ghost king suddenly waved his arm. The arm was hundreds of meters long, and it fell from the sky with a crash. Lin Muyu was shocked. This kind of magical power was really amazing. She hurriedly used the butterfly steps of falling star steps to dodge. The dust behind her flew up, and the whole lonely mountain was shaking. However, Lin Muyu also noticed that after the fire spirit ghost king's attack, there was no ravine left on the ground. What was going on? There seemed to be only one explanation. The fire spirit ghost king didn't have a physical body at all. The behemoth in front of her was just a soul form. However, even if she was hit by a soul form, she would probably die. Once she died, she would become a soul. At that time, she would be at the mercy of others. No, strictly speaking, she would be at the mercy of the ghost. Hua! The gale wrapped around the fire spirit ghost king's arm, and he attacked again. Lin Muyu hurriedly shouted, 7 luminaries demon emperor, you still don't come out? Do you want to wait for me to die before coming out? Don't forget, there is nothing else here except this body of mine. This sentence was very powerful. It immediately made the 7 luminaries demon emperor unable to sit still. Lin Muyu opened the gate of Wuxia. In the next instant, the enormous figure of the 7 brilliance demon monarch burst out from the top of his head. It was still in the form of a soul, but it was a lot more arrogant. With his hands behind his back, the 7 luminaries demon emperor stood in the air, surrounded by divine light. He looked at the fire spirit ghost king indifferently and said, Fire spirit, do you still remember me? The fire spirit ghost king was stunned, and his face revealed a cold expression, 7 luminaries demon emperor? Ha! Ha ha ha, you actually hid in the body of a nameless kid, and you are so weak. In fact, the 7 luminaries demon emperor had been squeezed by the treasure-refining cauldron in Lin Muyu's Yi. His soul power was getting weaker and weaker, and he might not be able to defeat the fire spirit ghost king. Anyway, it was best for the two of them to fight to the death. Monstrous flames. The fire spirit ghost king attacked first, and his arms waved out monstrous flames. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was not easy to deal with. He raised his palm and directly used the 4th luminaries, and shouted, "For luminaries demon god cry." Ghosts and spirits danced in his palm, causing the sky to change color. Bang! With a loud explosion, the flames of the fire spirit ghost king were directly smashed. The palm power continued to fly out, shattering half of the fire spirit ghost king's arm. But because it was in soul form, it only damaged its soul power, and the arm quickly grew back. You old thing! The fire spirit ghost king's face was full of shame and anger. He moved his body on the ground, raised his arm, and shouted, "Heaven fire prairie." Countless flames fell from the sky. The 7 luminaries demon emperor raised both of his palms, and his body was full of destructive power. He had a sinister smile on his face. Come on, 5 luminaries 8 wastelands destruction. Bang! The flames soared into the sky, and lonely mountains suddenly trembled again. The entire 11th level of Purgatory trembled because of the battle between the two powerhouses. Lin Muyu hurriedly ran far away, so as not to be affected by the battle. He watched from afar. The power of the 7 luminaries demon emperor was indeed squeezed out by him, and he was actually on par with the 5 luminaries demon emperor. Very good, this was the effect I wanted. Goo goo, at this time, his stomach growled again. He was not in soul form, and he would starve to death if he did not eat, but where could he find food in this purgatory? There was boiling lava everywhere on Lonely Mountain. Even if there was a living thing, it would probably be burned to death, and there were ownerless ghosts floating in the lava. Could it be that they were eating ghosts? He touched his stomach, and he wanted to die. Carrying the burning prairie sword, he wandered in Lonely Mountain, and after searching for a long time, the voices of the two powerhouses echoed in his ears. Flying fire sacrifice, I will kill you. 6 luminaries heaven and earth calamity, I will kill your whole family. Fire thorn heaven and earth, you are dead. 7 luminary star transformation, fire essence, you idiot, if you want to kill me, wait another 10,000 years. Among the voices of the two powerhouses, Lin Muyu quickly distinguished another sound, goo goo. Goo goo. Damn, is this the sound of a frog? His heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly carried the burning prairie sword and followed the sound. It was a crack between the rocks, and when he went in, he saw a frog with a fiery body. This frog was about the size of a fist, and it was much bigger than an ordinary frog. He had seen this thing before. In the Conquest game, the fire frog was a level 10 food ingredient, and it was very delicious after cooking. Catch the fire frog. Pa! His palm fell to the ground, but he caught nothing. The fire frog's jumping speed was very fast, and it was already far away, but this was not a problem for Lin Muyu. He just raised his hand, and the calabash vine broke out of the ground, instantly binding the fire frog. Walking forward, he cut off the fire frog's head, and held its fat and tender body in his palm. It felt hot, but there was no water, so how was he going to cook it? And this was a very serious problem. Without water, how was he going to survive? At this moment, the stones on the ground not far away suddenly began to tremble, and in the next moment, with a pa sound, a white arrow of water rushed out of the ground, and it was boiling hot water. For a moment, Lin Muyu was overjoyed. It was an underground spring. Too lucky, there was actually an underground spring in this kind of place. There was simply no such thing as a dead end. He happily took off his leg. Because the material was impervious to water and fire, he directly took some underground spring water, and found some branches that had dried up for tens of thousands of years to make a bonfire. He wrapped the leather into the shape of a pot and placed it on top to cook. Then, he caught 2 fire frogs, removed the skin, and threw the 3 fire frogs into the pot to cook. At this time, he couldn't go for seasonings like green onions and coriander, and there wasn't even any oil. It was already good enough to fill his stomach. Not long after, the water began to boil again, and the meat of the fire frog emitted a faint fragrance. In the distance, the souls of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and the Fire Spirit Ghost King were still fighting. The starlight shot into the sky, looking extremely dazzling, but it would still take some time to kill the Fire Spirit Ghost King. Lin Muyu couldn't be bothered with these 2 crazy people, and minded his own business eating the fire frogs. 3 fire frogs were enough, and after eating, he was already full. He patted his bulging stomach, drank some soup, and rested on the hot rock for a while. He felt that there was no longer anything he wanted to pursue in life. But at this moment, a burning sensation suddenly came from his stomach. What's going on? He frowned. Could it be a stomachache? At this moment, Lulu flew out and said, "Brother, you ate too much fire frog meat. This meat is pure fire attribute, you can't eat the fire frog meat without getting rid of the fire." "Damn," Lin Muyu asked, "Lulu, how do I get rid of the fire?" Lulu's little face instantly turned red. Although Lulu is very willing to serve brother, but Lulu doesn't have a real body. Besides, Lulu's body is so small, I'm afraid it won't fit brother's size. I'm not talking about this fire, brother, you're too evil, Lulu said. To get rid of the fire energy, brother, you're thinking too much. Lin Muyu's face darkened. Looking at this beautiful elf officer acting coquettishly, she couldn't help but say, "Damn, I only said 1 sentence, and you actually filled in so much, I have to give it to you. Lulu, you better tell me how to get rid of the fire, my stomach feels like it's burning up." Lulu looked around and said, "Brother, look at the spiritual light on the surface of the lava, it's actually spiritual energy scattered by souls. Because ghosts are of the Yin attribute, if brother can refine this spiritual light, you should be able to adjust the heat energy in your body." Okay. Chapter 119. Late at night, starlight shone on the Grand Duke's residence in 7 Seas City. The glazed tiles reflected the starlight in the sky. Tuck tuck tuck, a horse galloped in, and a graceful figure rode into the residence. 2 guards immediately went up to her. "Who is it? How dare you trespass the Duke of 7 Seas' residence?" The girl on the horse lifted her cloak, revealing an elegant and refined face. It was Tang Xiaoxi. "Ah, it's Princess Shi." The 2 guards hurriedly bowed respectfully and said, "Why did Princess Shi return to 7 Seas City so late? And there was no news at all." Tang Xiaoxi looked anxious. "Let's not talk so much. Where is Grandpa?" "Duke Lan is resting in his residence." "Bring me there." "Yes." After passing through the pavilion, they arrived at Duke Kanglan's residence. This place didn't seem luxurious at all. It was just an extremely ordinary wooden house, sitting alone by the lake. There was still light inside. Tang Lan was wearing a duke's brocade robe, and he was reading a book on military strategy. His beard and hair had already turned white, and his old face looked a little tired. Dong dong. With a knock on the door, Tang Xiaoxi said from outside, "Grandpa, are you asleep? Xiao Shi is back." Tang Lan's heart instantly trembled. He put down the book in his hand, stood up, and went straight to the door. When he opened the door, he saw Tang Xiaoxi standing under the moonlight. He couldn't help but smile. "Xiao Shi, why did you return to 7 Seas City so late?" You should have told Grandpa in advance. Tang Xiaoxi immediately held Tang Lan's arm and said with a smile, "Didn't I want to give Grandpa a surprise?" "Really?" Tang Lan squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "I'm afraid it's not just a surprise. You returned to Seven Seas City for Lin Muyu, right?" Tang Xiaoxi was taken aback. She opened her mouth wide and smiled shyly. "So Grandpa has guessed it." Tang Lan looked at her precious granddaughter very gently and said with a smile, "Humph, I also have a lot of spies in Lanyan City, okay? I already know that you are friends with that boy named Lin Muyu. Sigh. Granddaughter has grown up and is looking for a husband. As your grandfather, should I prepare a betrothal gift for you as soon as possible?" "Grandpa," Tang Xiaoxi frowned and said, "it doesn't matter if it's a betrothal gift or not. I'm worried that he's about to die in Tong Tian Tower. This brat destroyed the nurturing hall, killed several members of the Imperial Guard, and injured an officer of the nurturing hall. This punishment is enough for him to die 7 or 8 times over. Exiling him to Skysplit Tower is already the lightest punishment." Tang Lan's eyes turned cold. "Moreover, Divine Marquise Ng Yifan also wants to kill Lin Muyu. If we, the Seven Seas Tang sect, don't get involved if we can." Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips and tears filled her eyes. "Grandpa, do you only care about power and weight? Xiaoxi likes Lin Muyu, don't you know that?" Tang Lan was also stunned. His gaze became gentle as he caressed his granddaughter's hair. "Xiaoxi, it wasn't easy for our Tang sect to have such a foundation in Seven Seas City. You should know how much Grandpa has sacrificed. Although we can be said to have a strong army, we definitely don't have the power to go against Divine Marquise Ng Yifan. He is the world's #1 military god." "Grandpa." Tang Xiaoxi bit her lips and her eyes turned red. "If you don't plead for Lin Muyu, Xiaoxi will regret it for the rest of her life. Grandpa, can't you help me just this once?" Tang Lan took a deep breath. He really couldn't dissuade her grandpa. "All right then. Go pack your luggage. Tomorrow morning, Grandpa will accompany you to Lanyan City to meet the Emperor. Is that okay?" "Yes, thank you Grandpa." The girl's tears turned into a smile. "Hurry up and go to sleep. We still have a long journey tomorrow. I'll ask the servants to prepare something delicious for you." "Yes, yes." Watching Tang Xiaoxi leave happily, Tang Lan sighed. Looking at the faint light in the night, he said indifferently, "Silly child, a lifetime is long. It's not that hard to forget someone." At this time, in purgatory, the person Tang Xiaoxi was worried about was unaware of the situation. He was still happily refining the spiritual fire. The huge crafting cauldron opened. Lin Muyu raised his battle chi and absorbed the spiritual light on the surface of the surrounding magma. Not long after, he absorbed hundreds of spiritual lights and gathered them together. Then, he began to refine them. The cauldron trembled slightly and spat out the 3rd layer of earth fire. The spiritual lights danced wildly in the cauldron and let out mournful wails as if their souls were being refined. Not long after, Lin Muyu's forehead was covered in sweat. The materials in purgatory were indeed very different from those in the human world. At least, these spiritual lights were not so easy to refine. The repeated impact of these spiritual lights was a great hindrance to Lin Muyu and even caused him internal injuries. It took him a whole night to completely refine these spiritual lights. They turned into wisps of spiritual fire and seeped into the depths of the crafting cauldron. The 4th layer. But the amount was too little. It was not enough for the crafting cauldron to produce the 4th layer of fire. So, he continued to do this over and over again. In the blink of an eye, 4 days had passed. Swoosh, swoosh, another few spiritual lights turned into flames and seeped into the 4th layer of the crafting cauldron. Finally, the entire crafting cauldron shone brightly. A strange feeling of fullness made Lin Muyu realize that the refinement was successful. Successfully refining the spiritual lights into spiritual fire allowed the crafting cauldron to comprehend the fourth layer of fire, spiritual fire. Looking into the distance, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and the Flame Spirit Ghost King had been fighting for 4 days and 4 nights, but there was still no sign of them resting. They were still fighting chaotically. Looking at the situation, it was likely that they would not be finished without more than 10 days. Lin Muyu leisurely put away the crafting cauldron and continued to catch fire frogs to fill his stomach. Counting the days, he had been in the Tower of Babel for 10 days. Not only did he survive, he actually transmigrated to the plane of purgatory. This inevitably made him a little proud. However, looking at the plane crack that was about 30 meters high in the sky, he was troubled. It was easy to come in, but how was he going to get out? After all, he could not fly, and the height he could jump was at most about 10 meters. Going back would be a very serious problem. Croak, croak, after getting the first fire frog, he went to catch the second one. Fortunately, the number of fire frogs in the rock crack was very abundant. It would not be a problem to eat for a month. In the end, he did not find the third one for a long time. Instead, he went deeper and deeper. In the depths of the rock crack, a scorching energy surged. He continued to walk forward and turned around a stone wall. Suddenly, he saw a patch of fiery red in front of him. It was magma deep underground, but it didn't seem like ordinary magma. There were invisible arms mixed in the magma, and there seemed to be ghosts howling mournfully. What the hell was this? Lulu said in the "Hi, brother, this is the flame of purgatory. It can be called purgatory fire. The intensity of the flame is slightly higher than spiritual fire. Brother can try to refine this kind of infernal fire and refine it into the 5th layer of the crafting cauldron. This way, the crafting cauldron should be able to play a greater role." "Yes." He nodded firmly. After eating the fire frog, he immediately tried to refine the infernal fire. The refining flame he used was the spiritual fire that he had just refined on the 4th layer. The spiritual fire, under the enhancement of the crafting cauldron, became hotter and purer. This was the capital to refine the infernal fire. However, this process was not easy. There was no progress for the whole night. Instead, he was exhausted. It did not matter. He continued to work hard. Anyway, he had plenty of time. He counted the days while trying to refine the infernal fire. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and the Fire Spirit Ghost King naturally fought to their heart's content. After fighting for a few days, they were still fighting fiercely, looking determined to kill. Therefore, the entire 11th layer of purgatory was filled with an inexplicable sense of joy. After traveling for 5 days, nearly 5,000 people from the 7 Seas Tang sect arrived. They appeared outside Lanyan City in a grandiose manner. From afar, the Imperial Guard Feng Jixing had already led his troops to welcome them. 10,000 Imperial Guards lined up outside the city to welcome them. On the surface, it seemed like a welcoming gesture. In reality, everyone could see that the Imperial Guards were prepared for the arrival of so many people from the 7 Seas Tang sect. Feng Jixing, dressed in a white robe, urged his horse forward. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, "General Feng Jixing pays his respects to Duke Lan." Tang Lan waved her hand and smiled. "General Feng, you don't have to be so polite." "Duke Lan." Feng Jixing asked tentatively, "Duke Lan, why did you bring 5,000 cavalry to Lanyan City?" Tang Lan replied, "It's all for Xiaoxi. Sigh, this child is too stubborn. I'm afraid that if I don't plead for Lin Muyu, Xiaoxi will definitely not want me as her grandfather." Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red. "Grandfather, what are you talking about? Why would I not want you?" Feng Jixing laughed. "Since Duke Lan is pleading for you, then this general is willing to lead the way. Duke Lan, follow me." "Wait, General Feng." Tang Lan pointed at the 7 Seas Tang sect cavalry behind him and said, "These 5,000 heavy cavalry will stand guard outside the imperial city. Shao Shi and I will follow you to have an audience with His Majesty." Feng Jixing revealed a trace of gratitude. "Thank you, Duke Lan, for understanding Feng Jixing's difficulties. We are all important officials of the empire. Naturally, we have to consider His Majesty's interests. Let's go, Duke Lan. This general will lead the way." "All right." When Tang Lan arrived at the Zetian Palace Hall, Qin Jin personally came to welcome him. This was enough to show how much the empire valued 7 Seas City. After welcoming Tang Lan into the palace hall, Qin Jin smiled as if he had foresight. "Duke Lan, you must be here for Lin Muyu, right?" Tang Lan nodded. "That's right. Shao Shi and Lin Muyu have a very good relationship. Sai, as her grandfather, I really can't dissuade her. I've really spoiled her rotten since she was young." Qin Jin couldn't help but smile. "How could that be? Shao Shi is exceptionally intelligent and kind. This is a good thing. However, Duke Lan, Lin Muyu has already been in the heaven-reaching tower for 10 days, and there's still no news for now." Tang Lan said, "This old official doesn't dare to overstep his boundaries. I only hope that Your Majesty can shorten the deadline slightly and change it from 30 days to 20 days. How about it? This way, this old official will be able to answer to Shao Shi." Tang Xiaoxi stood at the side and looked at Qin Jin with a burning gaze. "Your Majesty, please grant this." Qin Jin took a deep breath and looked at the group of officials at the side. He asked, "Duke Lan is personally pleading for leniency. Minister Zheng, Luo Xing, do the two of you have any objections?" Zheng Yifan's expression was a little ugly. He cupped his fists and said, "This old official will listen to Your Majesty's decision." Luo Xing also took the opportunity to say, "This humble official is the same." Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh. "That's good. Feng Jixing, listen to my command. Open the heaven-reaching tower's gates in 10 days. If Lin Muyu is still alive, then let him go and let him return to Zetian Palace Hall to await further orders." "Many thanks, Your Majesty." Feng Jixing was overjoyed. Qin Jin turned around with a look of joy on his face. With this, he would be able to answer to his daughter, Qin Yin. However, there had been no news from Lin Muyu for many days, so it was likely that she had met with misfortune. Chapter 120. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days passed. At the foot of the Tower of Babel, thousands of Imperial Army cavalrymen stood in formation with spears in their hands, their banners fluttering in the wind, blocking out the sun. Feng Jixing gripped his wind cutter tightly, his face filled with worry as he said, "Men, open the door." "Yes, my lord." 2 Imperial Army soldiers walked forward with keys in their hands, opened the door, and abruptly pulled it open. Immediately, a gust of cold wind blew out, causing the 2 soldiers to turn pale as they took several steps back. "Where's you?" Qin Yin frowned slightly. She raised her hand and pulled out her sword from the back of her horse. Her entire body was enshrouded in the light of the god-binding chains as she walked towards the Tower of Babel. "Your Highness, be careful." Qin Lei raised his lightning cutter and quickly followed. Beside him, Tang Xiaoxi also pulled out her sword and followed. Standing in front of the pitch-black door, Qin Yin's beautiful face was filled with worry and anxiety as she called out softly, Are you there? You, hurry up and come out." On the side, a Divine Might Battalion's 1,000-man commander said respectfully, "Your Highness, since 10 days ago, this kid has not responded to the outside world. The food and water we've placed on the first floor have not been touched. Look, they're just there, they haven't been touched." At the door, there were 3 bags of dry rations and piles of water bags, neatly placed there, untouched. Impossible, Qin Yin's heart ached, as if a knife had been twisted in it. She took a step forward and rushed into the tower. Xiao Yin. Qin Jin's voice sounded from behind her, his tone extremely strict, "You can't go in." Suddenly, Qin Yin's body could not move, an invisible domain power spread out in the surroundings. It was the power of the Saint Realm. Lei Hong, dressed in a white robe, slowly walked out of the crowd and said, "Your Highness, Lin Muyu is not in the Tower of Babel, I can't feel his aura, give up." As he spoke, Lei Hong let out a sigh, his old face seemed to age a few years in an instant. "No." Qin Yin stood there in a daze. Tang Xiaoxi grit her teeth, her eyes filled with tears. Her beautiful eyes glared at Skysplit Tower as she sobbed, "Lin Muyu, you won't die so easily. Tell me you're still alive, come out." However, no one in the empty tower gave her a response. Qin Jin raised his hand and said, "Imperial Forest Guards, go in and investigate. Do not step into the second floor." "Yes." A few royal guards galloped away on their horses. Chu Huayin was at the front. He jumped down from his horse and entered the first level of the Tong Tian Tower in a flash. His eyes were wide open. You. Come out." But the walls were empty, and Lin Muyu was nowhere to be seen. Chu Huayin looked at the stone steps leading to the second floor, gritted his teeth, and rushed over with his sword. The two royal guards behind him hurriedly said, "Sir Chu Huayin, you can't go to the second floor, this is His Majesty's order." However, Chu Huayin still rushed to the second floor. He looked around and only saw piles of bones. "You." He was momentarily confused and stood there in a daze. "You, why did you leave just like that? Do you know that Yao is still waiting for you to come back? You bastard, you don't keep your words. You." Behind him, one of the royal guard said softly, "Brother Chu, forget it. You can't go up anymore, otherwise His Majesty will punish you for defying the order." Not long after, Chu Huayin and the other two royal guards walked out of Skysplit Tower, their faces filled with loneliness and despair. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi already knew the answer. "Russell, Russell." Qin Jin dismounted from his horse and walked to Qin Yin's side in his dragon robe. He stretched out his hand to support his daughter's shoulder and said gently, "Xiao Yin, give up. Lin Muyu won't be able to survive these 20 days. Go back with me." "No." Qin Yin bit her red lips, her beautiful eyes filled with determination. She said, "It's only 20 days, it's not even a month yet. You will definitely come out. Father, you should go back, I want to guard here." Qin Jin sighed. "Forget it. After 30 days, you must return to Zai Tian Palace Hall. Sir Lei Hong, you will stay here and be responsible for protecting Her Highness Yin, right?" Lei Hong cupped his fists. "This old subject understands." Qin Jin looked at Tang Xiaoxi again and asked, "Xiao Shi, are you also going to stay here?" Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were filled with hatred. She didn't look at the emperor and only nodded lightly. If Lin Muyu really died in Skysplit Tower, who would be the greatest sinner? Perhaps in Tang Xiaoxi's heart, it would be the emperor in front of her. The autumn wind rustled Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's cloaks. The two beautiful girls stubbornly stayed at the bottom of the tower, waiting for Lin Muyu, who might or might not appear. In the blink of an eye, another few days had passed. The battle between the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and the Fire Spirit Ghost King had come to an end. Both of their auras were much weaker. Deep in the rock stratum of Lonely Mountain, Lin Muyu was still cultivating. The crimson lava kept surging upwards, mixed with strands of ghost-shaped energy that lingered around the soul spirit. The scorching heat kept attacking Lin Muyu's body, but he remained motionless. He opened his hands to control the crafting cauldron, causing it to continuously absorb and refine the surging hellfire. Closing his eyes, he allowed the hellfire to pass through his skin and enter his blood vessels. Every single cell in his body was being fused with by the hellfire. Soon, the scorching red light seeped out from his skin. His entire body looked glowing and smooth, just like a newborn baby. Ah, he let out a light breath and exhaled a mouthful of turbid breath. The hellfire was refined. Counting with his fingers, it was already the 20th day since he entered the 11th level of purgatory. After a full 16 days, he finally completed the refinement and assimilation of the hellfire. The crafting cauldron also had the 5th level of refining fire. However, Lin Muyu did not feel happy because he had already felt that the strength of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's aura had completely crushed the Fire Spirit Ghost King. This was not a good thing. Since the soul of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had been released from the Yi, he would definitely not give up. Perhaps after killing the Fire Spirit Ghost King, there would be a dangerous battle of possession. Carrying the burning prairie sword, he quickly exited the rock stratum. From afar, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's hands were filled with the power of the stars, and his palms were blasting the Fire Spirit Ghost King's body into pieces. After fighting for half a month, the Fire Spirit Ghost King was already on the verge of death. He did not have the strength to fight back. On the contrary, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was getting stronger and stronger. After a few consecutive palms, the Fire Spirit Ghost King's lower body was smashed into pieces. 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, you beast! The Fire Spirit Ghost King roared. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's face was filled with a demonic smile. Fire Spirit, I have to thank you. Without your power, I'm afraid I would not have regained my freedom. Thank you so much, old friend. What did you say? The Fire Spirit Ghost King was stunned. In the next moment, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor leaped up, raised the power of the 7 glorious stars transformation, and slammed it down, directly blasting the Fire Spirit Ghost King's body into pieces. All the essence condensed into a blood-red soul light. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor quickly rushed down, opened his mouth, and began to absorb the soul light with a ferocious expression. Devour. In just a few seconds, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had already devoured the Fire Spirit Ghost King's soul. Instantly, his own soul power instantly increased by several times. When he turned around and saw Lin Muyu, he could not help but sneer. Lin Muyu, your good days are over. Lin Muyu held the long sword, and her face was pale. She quickly summoned her martial soul and the wall of the gourd. Roar! The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor roared and rushed down, holding a vast power of stars in his palm. He shouted, 7 glorious stars transformation. Actually, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's counterattack was already within Lin Muyu's expectations, so he reacted very quickly. He suddenly stomped on the ground with one foot, and instantly, a huge refining cauldron appeared around him and the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, enveloping him and the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. The 5th layer of refining fire, hellfire, rained down, wreaking havoc around the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Not only that, Lin Muyu raised both of his palms, and the shape of the world's living beings was reflected in his palms. He leaped forward, and both of his palms blasted out. 3 luminaries all calamity. Boom! A deafening explosion shook the purgatory plane. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's strength had already been weakened by nearly 90% in the refining cauldron, and the strength of his soul form wasn't strong enough. Now that he was attacked by the 3rd luminaries that Lin Muyu had just comprehended, his soul form instantly started to collapse. His face was filled with disbelief. You actually refined hellfire? Yes. With a roar, Lin Muyu raised the power of the refining cauldron to its peak, and instantly refined the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's body into a trace of spiritual breath. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was also smart, and he quickly flew into Lin Muyu's Yi, narrowly avoiding the danger of being refined by Lin Muyu on the spot. How is it? Are you convinced? Lin Muyu asked in Yi. The 7 luminaries demon emperor scolded loudly. I'm not convinced. You bastard, just you wait. As this human and demon often scolded each other in Yi, the 7 luminaries demon emperor had unknowingly learned a standard northeastern accent, and his scolding was rather imposing. Lin Muyu no longer cared about the 7 luminaries demon emperor, and took a deep breath to adjust his chaotic blood vessels. He raised his head to look at the demon eye in the sky. This plane crack was still moving with lightning and gales, but it was too high from the ground. After all, he was immortal, and couldn't jump into the plane crack. Moreover, what was waiting for him on the other side of the plane crack? Thinking of this, he muttered to himself and released his spiritual sense, passing through the plane crack. Sure enough, on the other side was the Blood Lord and Qi Gui, who were waiting anxiously. They were also looking at him. Once he passed through the plane crack, he would definitely have to face the attacks of the Blood Lord and Qi Gui. Even though he had improved, he was definitely not a match for the two of them. Even Qi Gui's attack alone would be hard to resist. After making up his mind, he looked around and picked up 2 huge rocks. Then, he looked at the demon eye in the sky, took a deep breath, gathered his qi, and threw the 2 rocks out. Pang! He bent his body and leaped forward. His bare feet fiercely crushed the first rock in the sky, and borrowed the force to jump another 10 meters. Then, he accurately crushed the second rock, and borrowed the force to jump another 10 meters. His whole body rushed straight into the plane crack, and suddenly, a scorching air wrapped around his body. It was the time quicksand. Enduring this kind of pain for the second time was nothing, not to mention he had the protection of the true dragon bloodline. Chapter 121. The scorching pain from the time quicksand seemed to only train his tenacious willpower and soul. The moment he passed through the plane, Lin Muyu had already raised his Do Qi to the extreme. He raised his right palm gently and gathered all the Do Qi in his body at one point, transforming it into 7 luminaries' profound energy. Swoosh! With a flash of light, he had already appeared on the top floor of Tong Tian Tower. What came into view was Lord Blood and Qi Gui's appearance. Lin Muyu. Qi Gui roared as his fists punched over with intense flames. He actually used his full strength. Lin Muyu's palm fell confidently. This palm was full of strength and the surroundings of his palms were filled with the dancing stars of all living beings, which was extremely mysterious. 3 luminaries calamity. Pang! The peak of the palm forcefully pushed Qi Gui back for more than 10 steps and he fell heavily onto the wall while Lin Muyu used the force to glide for more than 10 meters. With a flip, he jumped down from the 18th floor of Tong Tian Tower. You! Lord Blood was furious as he shouted, "You little bastard, how dare you tease me like this?" Lin Muyu did not plan to go down from the stairs at all. Instead, she planned to jump down from the top floor. Otherwise, she would not be able to escape from the pursuit of the Blood Lord and the War Bear that had lived for more than 10,000 years. Buzz! He summoned the green gourd in mid-air and the indigo gourd protected him. At the same time, he activated his Do Qi and hit the ground with his palm to reduce the force. Otherwise, no one would be able to withstand crashing into the ground from a height of more than 10 meters. On the ground, there was actually a group of people guarding there. The strong wind hit his eyes and Lin Muyu couldn't see who it was at all. On the ground, Tang Xiaoxi widened her eyes as she saw it clearly. A figure wrapped by the gourd was descending from the sky. She quickly pointed at the sky and shouted, "Xiao Yin, look!" Qin Yin quickly looked up and her beautiful face was instantly filled with ecstasy. "It's him! It's him!" Bang! Dust flew everywhere, and Lin Muyu slid on the ground for nearly 20 meters. He stood up in a sorry state, and there was nothing on his upper body except for his tattered pants. When he looked up, he realized that the three great beauties, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Yao, were standing not far away. Beside them were Feng Jixing, Chu Huaiying, and Qin Yan. In an instant, Lin Muyu's face flushed red. This was too embarrassing. Everything had been seen. However, at this moment, a mighty force came from above his head. He couldn't care less about his shame and hurriedly rolled away along the ground. The roar of the war bear came from behind him. The Blood Lord actually rode the war bear and attacked. A god-binding lock fell on the place where Lin Muyu was half a second ago, blasting the dust into pieces. Who is it? Qin Lei raised his long saber and rushed over, shouting in a low voice, "Old fellow, why do you have my Qin family's martial spirit? Big brother Qin Lei, step back." Lin Muyu shouted loudly, causing Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Yao to stop in their tracks. Each of them was dumbfounded. Who is this old man? Qin Yin blinked her eyes. He is from the Qin family. Lin Muyu raised his long sword and turned around. He looked at the Blood Lord from afar, cupped his fists and said, "Senior, give up. I have already come out from the Tong Tian Tower. Why are you still unwilling to let me go?" The Blood Lord's face was filled with anger. At this moment, his appearance rapidly aged. Strictly speaking, he became older. In the blink of an eye, his entire person was like a mummy, as if he could disappear with the wind at any time. Lifespan. This was the only reason why the Blood Lord didn't leave the top of the tower. He needed to absorb the death energy from the purgatory plane to maintain his life. Otherwise, once he left the top of the tower, his life would be gone with the wind. The terrifying scene in front of them made Qin Yin and the other two beauties turn pale. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, heaved a sigh of relief. He had not guessed wrongly. The Blood Lord was an extremely greedy person. For the sake of the throne, he would not hesitate to kill his own brother. It was impossible for such a person to give up and stay in the Tong Tian Tower. There must be something in the tower that he could not give up. Now, the answer had appeared. The Tong Tian Tower had what he needed the most, life. "Little Black, let's go." The Blood Lord gently stroked the head of the war bear and urged it to return to the Tong Tian Tower. The crisis was then resolved. "You, quickly put it on." Chu Huaiying had already prepared a set of armor for him. It was a set of battle robes of the Tiger Guards. After putting on the new robes, his entire temperament had undergone a huge change. From the initial wild and unrestrained, it had transformed into a cold and arrogant one. If he could shave his beard, it would probably be even more perfect. "You, who was that person just now?" asked Qin Yin. "Your great-grandfather's younger brother, a person who committed treason." Oh, Qin Yin did not understand and did not continue to ask. After putting on the battle boots, Lin Muyu flipped over and mounted the horse. At this moment, a group of people galloped over from not far away. It was the military police battalion. Commander Xiangyu carried the carnage spear and walked at the front. "Lin Muyu, you actually came out alive." Xiangyu smiled coldly. "It seems that the rumors about the Tong Tian Tower are not true. Even someone like you can come out alive. The Tong Tian Tower is not as scary as the rumors say." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "Then why don't you go in and try? Are you provoking me?" Xiangyu raised his eyebrows and said, "Don't think that you are free after coming out of the Tong Tian Tower. Dream on." "Xiangyu, what do you mean?" Qin Lei carried the thunder cutter and asked. "Nothing. I just want to see how his cultivation is progressing." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiangyu had already jumped off the horse. Chaotic energy surged around his body. With a wave of his palm, an overwhelming attack blasted towards Lin Muyu. Chaotic 9 strikes, the third strike, Chaotic Heaven Splitter. Lin Muyu had already expected this. Xiangyu was naturally arrogant and would definitely test her. Therefore, the moment Xiangyu made his move, Lin Muyu had already rapidly increased the strength of her battle chi. With a wave of her right palm, the constellation of all living beings appeared, 3 luminaries all calamity. Bang! Light splashed in all directions. The collision of the two forces formed a shockwave that swept in all directions. Lin Muyu suddenly landed on the ground. With a pa sound, the butterfly steps of the falling star step unloaded the force on the ground and stood firmly. On the contrary, Xiangyu was actually sent flying 7 or 8 steps back by this attack. He stood firmly in a sorry state. Looking at his palm, his face had an expression of disbelief. Obviously, he did not expect that Lin Muyu could actually shake off his sure-kill attack. After all, over 20 days ago, this attack was something that Lin Muyu could not block at all. Xiangyu, have you eaten a leopard's guts? Qin Yin spurred her horse over. Her beautiful face was filled with anger. Could it be that you don't know father's decree? Once Lin Muyu steps out of the Tong Tian Tower, he will be exempted from all punishment. As the commander of the military police battalion, you actually attacked him here. Are you openly defying father's decree? This lowly general does not dare. Xiangyu smiled awkwardly. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, this lowly general is just testing how much Lord Lin Muyu's cultivation has improved in the Tong Tian Tower. I definitely have no intention of defying the decree. Your Highness, please investigate clearly. Qin Yin said coldly, you may leave. I will bring him back to the Zhe Tian Palace Hall. Yes, Your Highness. Lin Muyu stood motionless on the spot. Her body could not move. She had used the power of the third element 3 times in a row. Although she did not use her full strength, the backlash on her body was very strong. After a whole 10 minutes, she finally mounted the horse with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. She returned to the Zhe Tian Palace Hall, but this time, her mood was completely different. She knelt at the foot of the emperor's steps with Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin. Her heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. At this moment, Lin Muyu finally understood what it meant to be in the emperor's company was like living with a tiger. Heaven's might was unpredictable. Her life and death depended on the happiness and anger of others. How could this not be a kind of sorrow? Lin Muyu. Qin Jin looked at her indifferently and said, you were able to come out of the Tong Tian Tower alive. This is enough to prove that you indeed did not deserve to die. After this ordeal, you can resume your position and continue to serve as the Tiger Guard of the Imperial Guards. Commander Qin Lei will prepare everything for you. You can return to duty at the patrol station in the afternoon. Your Majesty, does my request from back then still count? Lin Muyu asked. Qin Jin was stunned. What request? Abolish the Imperial Army's concubine system. You. Qin Jin gritted his teeth and said, this is a matter of great importance. It's not something that I can abolish just because I say so. However, I will consider it. You don't need to say anything more. Return to the patrol station. Lin Muyu had completely given up. He stood up, cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, I request to join the Eagle Guard. Eagle Guard? Qin Jin was stunned. Why? Qin Yin, who was sitting beside the emperor, was also anxious. She asked, why do you want to become an Eagle Guard? That's a tough job. You'll have to stay outside the imperial city for many years. I know. Naturally, Lin Muyu would not say that he did not want to stay by the emperor's side. He only said, I want to gain more experience in the outside world. I hope your Majesty will allow me to do so. Qin Jin smiled faintly and nodded. Since you want to become an Eagle Guard, I'll allow you. However, it's not that easy to become an Eagle Guard. Not only do you have to patrol the safety of the imperial city surroundings, but you also have to enter the dragon-seeking forest to hunt some precious spirit beasts and gather precious materials and meat for the Zetian Palace's use. This. Can you do it? I can. Lin Muyu's gaze was calm. Good. Qin Jin stood up and said, then I'll promote Lin Muyu to Eagle Guard. You'll be able to command 10 Imperial Guards and 100 Imperial Guards. However, you'll also have to patrol every month. I hope you'll be able to complete it smoothly. Yes. When Lin Muyu turned around and left, Qin Yin revealed a trace of disappointment. After all, she had hoped that Lin Muyu would stay in the Zetian Palace. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu had chosen to leave. Qin Lei, Chu Huaying, and Feng Jixing followed her out of the Zetian Palace. Qin Lei frowned and said, it's tough being an Eagle Guard. You're constantly on the move, and your position is the lowest among the Imperial Guards. Why do you want to become an Eagle Guard? Lin Muyu shook her head and said, my personality is too straightforward. I'm not suitable to stay in the Zetian Palace. Feng Jixing smiled at the side. It's fine to become an Eagle Guard. There's no need to force yourself. Oh, right. Brother Qin Lei, I have a request. Oh, what request? That Wei Chou, if he's willing to become an Eagle Guard, can you assign him to be under my command? What do you think? Okay, no problem. Outside the palace, Chu Yao was standing in the distance. She was leading a white horse. She walked forward and said with a smile, are you all right now? Yes, I'm all right now. Chu Huaying smiled and said, however, Yu has chosen to lower his rank and become an Eagle Guard. Chu Yao blinked. It's all right. It's best that he's alive. That's true. Chapter 122. As expected, Wei Chou readily agreed to Qin Lei's transfer, and immediately changed from Tiger Guard to Eagle Guard. His salary was reduced by a lot, but he did not seem to mind it at all. In the afternoon, Lin Muyu rode his horse back to temple alone. Master, you're back. A few temple guards looked at him excitedly. The news of Lin Muyu being exiled to Tong Tian Tower had long been known by everyone. Now that they saw Lin Muyu coming back alive, everyone was naturally surprised. After entering temple, everything was the same as before. A group of sparring masters and instructors were focused on training. Only one person led his horse and met Lin Muyu face to face. It was none other than Zhang Wei. Zhang Wei, where are you going? Lin Muyu was surprised. Zhang Wei looked at him in surprise, but then he scratched his head and laughed. Master Lin Muyu, you're back. Unfortunately, old Zhang, have to leave. I just received my orders yesterday, I have to leave temple. Where are you going to work? Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing personally recommended me to be a brigadier general in the Imperial Guard. It should be around the rank of 1,000 men commander. Then congratulations. Lin Muyu smiled, this can be considered as a promotion. Zhang Wei felt a little helpless, and laughed, actually, I still prefer working in temple. I am too straightforward. If I go to the Imperial Guard, I don't know how many people I will offend because of my personality. Lin Muyu patted his chest and said, look, didn't I also leave temple and join the Imperial Guard? You're different. You're still a member of temple. Zhang Wei looked back at the row of side halls with some reluctance, and said, I have left temple forever, and will be a member of the Imperial Guard from now on. Sigh. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder, no problem, you and I will always be friends. You're welcome to visit temple anytime. Zhang Wei nodded his head, then I'm leaving. Alright, we might meet again when we have time. That's right, I'm leaving. Zhang Wei led his horse and quietly left. Looking at his back, he seemed a little lonely. Lin Muyu tied up the horse, carried the prairie fire sword and went straight to the main hall of the Divine Temple. She saw Guyang from afar on the waterside pavilion corridor, smiled and said, "Good afternoon, Deacon Guyang. You is back?" Guyang said with a smile, "The great deacon was right. You will definitely return to the holy temple again. Come, I will take you to him." "All right." Inside the grand hall, Lei Hong placed his hand on the lion's head on the grand deacon's seat. His eyes shined as he smiled. "You, quickly tell your grandfather about your experiences in Skysplit Tower." Lin Muyu respectfully recounted everything that happened in Skysplit Tower. She did not mention the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, but Lei Hong and Guyang were still dumbfounded. After a while, Guyang sighed, "I didn't expect Qin Hong to still be alive in Skysplit Tower. He should be hundreds of years old." Lei Hong narrowed his eyes and said, "He has not stepped into the divine realm, so he did not obtain the power of immortality. Living like this is just a struggle at death's door. If it were me, I would rather die than make such a despicable deal with a demon from purgatory." Guyang smiled, "It's great that you can come back alive. Oh right, you should have some matters to attend to in the Divine Temple, right?" "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded, then adjusted the armor on her shoulder. She smiled and said, "This Eagle Guard armor is really uncomfortable to wear, so I still want to ask Grandpa Lei Hong for a few sets of Holy Sanctum armor. I wonder if I still have the custom-made armor. The last set has already been melted when I transmigrated to the realm." Lei Hong could not help but smile, "So that's why. Well, I've already prepared it for you. Men, bring in use Divine Temple Gold Star Sparring Master Battle Armor." The door opened, and 2 Divine Temple guards walked in, each holding a set of Divine Temple Battle Armor. The Gold Star Sparring Master insignia on the chest of the armor shone brightly. Lei Hong smiled, "I ordered someone to make this armor. It's made of Millennium Dark Steel and embedded with buoyancy gems. It can reduce the pressure you have to bear when wearing it. Quickly try it on." "Okay." Lin Muyu excitedly took out a set of armor and went into the inner hall to change. Immediately, she was full of energy again, and there were a total of 8 black gems embedded around the armor. These were the buoyancy gems that Lei Hong mentioned. The entire set of armor weighed at least 100 pounds, but when wearing it, it did not seem to weigh more than 50 pounds. This set of armor was indeed a treasure. He was overjoyed, and hurriedly cupped his fists. "Thank you, Grandpa Lei Hong, I really like this set of armor." "As long as you like it." Lei Hong lightly stroked his white beard, and said proudly, "This is made by our Divine Temple's skilled craftsmen, it's famous." "Oh right, didn't you apply to become an Eagle Guard? When are you going to the Eagle's Nest?" "I'll go in the afternoon." "Okay, then Grandpa will not keep you. Every Eagle Guard mission is risky, you have to be careful." "Yes, then Grandpa will go?" "Okay." Guyang sent him out, and sighed as he walked, Now that you've left, Zhang Wei has also left. Now, our Divine Temple has once again returned to that state of withering talents. It seems that in the entire Divine Temple's younger generation, only young Prince Qin Yen looks decent." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "Young Prince Qin Yen is naturally intelligent, and is a talent that can be molded. With proper nurturing, he can become a top-notch expert. Yes, in any case, when you have time, you should come back to the Divine Temple to take a look." Okay, Grandpa Guyang." After that, he made a trip to the spiritual medicine department, and after bidding farewell to Chu Yao, he went to the Eagle's Nest. The so-called Eagle's Nest was actually a facility set up outside of Lanyan City. It had 2 main functions. One was to directly provide the Empire's Zetian Palace with some important intelligence, and the second was to send experts into the deep mountains to hunt high-level spirit beasts, to provide the Zetian Palace with rare beast spirit stones, meat, etc. Every autumn, the Eagle's Nest would be very busy, preparing food for the winter. After leaving the city, he galloped along the small path for a few li, and from afar, he could see a camp built on a mountain ridge adjacent to Lanyan City. It was the Eagle's Nest. The Eagle's Nest was a newly built department, and belonged to the Imperial Army. The camp was very simple, and the central army was built from a mountain deity temple. The rest of the camps were all tents, and some of the more simple ones were built with grass and wood. It was no wonder that Feng Jixing and Qin Lei said that the Eagle Guards lived a tough life. There were not many soldiers stationed at the Eagle's Nest, and there were less than 200 of them, and among them, 110 were Lin Muyu's subordinates. They galloped along the mountain path, and not long after, Wei Chou came up to welcome them. He gave a straight Empire's military salute, and said, "General, the commander is already waiting for you in the Central Army. Come quickly. Lead the way." Yes. They galloped all the way into the Eagle's Nest. Lin Muyu led the way, and when she looked down, she realized that the place was very steep. The camp was built on the cliff, and it looked like a bird's nest at the top of a tree. It was no wonder that this organization was called the Eagle's Nest. There were 7 centurions in the Eagle's Nest, and one of them was the commander of the Eagle's Nest. Lin Muyu was one of the 7 centurions, and the commander was a man called Meng Fong. It was said that Meng Fong's ancestor was a famous general, but after a few thousand years, he was no longer known. A mere commander of 1,000 men commander, how could he be considered a famous general? After entering the central tent, Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, "Lin Muyu pays her respects to the commander." Meng Fong was a man around 40 years old, with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He laughed and stood up, saying, "Lord Lin Muyu is finally here. Hurry up and take a seat, your arrival is like a timely rain." "What do you mean?" Lin Muyu asked after sitting down. Meng Fong muttered to himself with some distress, and said, "Half a month ago, the Zhe Tian Palace gave us a winter mission. We need 2 fire spirit stones over 4,000 years old, 1 rock spirit stone over 5,000 years old, 1 light spirit stone over 5,000 years old, 20 cloud deer over 1,000 years old, 100 swift wolf pelts over 500 years old, 10 fire fox pelts over 1,000 years old, and a wild boar over 1,000 kilograms. They said that it was for the priests at the end of the year ceremony." Lin Muyu was a little dizzy from listening to this, and said with a smile, "That's a lot of missions, how many have we completed?" Meng Fong coughed and smiled a little awkwardly. "Out of the 7 centurions, 4 have entered the Cangnan province to carry out a reconnaissance mission. Of the remaining 2, 1 was seriously injured in the battle to kill a 6,000-year-old rock goat, and the other is carrying out a mission to kill a swift wolf. So, the only person I can use now is you. Then when do I set off?" "The sooner the better." Meng Fong looked in the direction of Lanyan City and said, "Actually, I won't hide it from you, the 2 fire spirit stones are prepared for Princess Shi, the 5,000-year-old rock spirit stone is prepared for young Prince Qin Yan, and the 5,000-year-old light spirit stone is prepared for Her Highness Yin. I know that General Lin actually knows all of them, so you are the most suitable person to carry out this mission." As he said this, Meng Fong coughed and said, "To be honest, among the generals of the Eagle's Nest, your strength is the strongest. If I send someone else to hunt a spirit beast over 5,000 years old, I'm very worried that they won't be able to protect themselves." Got it." Lin Muyu stood up, cupped her fists and said with a smile, "Commander, how many people do you intend to give me?" 50 people, including 10 Imperial Guards with Earth Realm strength. What do you think? All right, thank you. You're welcome. I wish General Lin victory. After leaving the central tent, Wei Chou frowned and said, "General, the commander is obviously bullying us new Eagle Guards. He actually gave us the entire winter hunting mission. I clearly saw many Imperial Guards playing chess, hunting, and so on in the camp. Why did he make us do such dangerous and hard work? How despicable." Lin Muyu shushed him and said with a smile, "Lower your voice, just treat it as the most capable people doing more work. Go and select the elite troops, we will set off in the evening and enter the dragon-seeking forest through the night. Bring enough supplies, just treat it as self-training. Yes. Chapter 123. War horses neighed. On the empty ground of the Eagle's Nest camp, 50 soldiers were ready to set off. They were all cavalrymen, and they even prepared a trailer. This trailer was used to transport a 1,000 kilograms wild boar. Because the wild boar was used by the priests, it had to be kept intact. Without a trailer, it would be impossible to transport it. After all, even Hercules would not be able to move such a heavy wild boar. My lady, we are ready. Wei Chou held his sword and reported solemnly. Let's go. Lin Muyu did not stop. She turned her horse around and slowly led the group out of the camp. However, at this moment, a group of people appeared on the side of the road. They seemed to have just climbed up from the foot of the mountain. The person leading the group was dressed in the battle robes of the royal guards. He was rather handsome, but there was a strong sense of arrogance in between his brows. He did not give in to Lin Muyu's group at all as he led his men on the mountain road. Who is this? Lin Muyu asked in a low voice. Wei Chou frowned and said, Gong Sun has the strength of a level 60 heavenly venerable. He is one of the 9 people who have stepped into the heavenly realm out of the 200 royal guards. Because he is from the divine marquis residence, he is very arrogant. This person has always been arrogant and domineering in the royal guards. My lord, we should avoid him if we can. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Stop, let them go first. Yes. The group of people stopped their horses. At this moment, Gong Sun pulled the reins and urged his horse forward. He looked arrogant and his eyes fell on Lin Muyu. He could not help but laugh and said, Who would have thought that there would be a spring for the green gourd? Even the 10th grade green gourd martial spirit can become a royal guard. Ha ha ha, this is the biggest joke in the world. Lin Muyu, what is your mission this time? Lin Muyu suppressed her anger and said, To hunt all kinds of spirit beasts above 5,000 years old. Oh? Gong Sun could not help but laugh. You mobs want to hunt spirit beasts above 5,000 years old? Do you know how powerful a 5,000-year-old spirit beast is? Ha ha ha, don't all die in the dragon-seeking forest. Our eagle's nest can't afford to lose so much face. Yo, brother Wei Chou is in the team too, hee hee. Gong Sun slowly urged his horse to come to Wei Chou's side, and his eyes were filled with disdain as he said, I heard that your mother used to be a camp concubine. It's not easy for you, the son of a camp concubine, to be able to become a royal guard. You better not die outside, or else when that spiritual beast eats you, it won't even know whose bastard child it is, ha 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 ha. Clang! Lin Muyu's prairie flame sword had already been unsheathed, and with a flash of lightning, it was already pressed against Gong Sun's throat. Lin Muyu, what are you trying to do? Gong Sun was so frightened that he didn't dare to move. Lin Muyu smiled and said coldly, You can insult me, but you can't insult my subordinates. Remember this. The long sword slowly moved away. Gong Sun was so frightened that he broke out in cold sweat. He and Lin Muyu were both at the first heaven of the heaven state, but he was threatened by the other party's sneak attack. Moreover, it was in front of a group of subordinates, so he didn't feel ashamed and said, Aren't you too arrogant? Do you think that you can hunt a spiritual beast that is over 5,000 years old with just a few people? Let me tell you, among the 5,000-year-old spiritual beasts, there are only flying feather beasts, spirit light pythons, and golden-scaled beasts. The flying feather beasts and spirit light pythons have already started hibernating before the snow falls. Golden-scaled beasts are very rare. Even if you find one, you guys are definitely not its match. I'll see how you guys die. As he spoke, Gong Sun glared at Wei Chou and said, Bastard, don't think that you found a backer. Just you wait. Wei Chou gritted his teeth, but he still endured and didn't flare up. After all, there was a huge disparity in strength, and the other party was of noble birth, while he was just a commoner. Just as Gong Sun said, Wei Chou was the son of Ing Ji and didn't know who his father was. His mother died over 10 years ago, so he couldn't even be considered a commoner. Lin Muyu wasn't willing to endure, and raised her eyebrows and said, Gong Sun, if we hunt a 5,000-year-old golden-scaled beast and bring it back, then what? Do you dare to bet with us? Gong Sun's anger surged, and he said, all right, you say, how do we bet? Lin Muyu said, before the winter sacrifice ceremony, if we can hunt a 5,000-year-old golden-scaled beast, you kneel down to Wei Chou and apologize in public. If we can't do it, I will kneel down to you and apologize in public. Do you dare to bet? Why wouldn't I dare to bet? Gong Sun raised his palm and said loudly, everyone listen up, if Lin Muyu is able to hunt a golden-scaled beast that is over 5,000 years old, Gong Sun, am willing to kneel down and apologize to Wei Chou, but if they are unable to hunt it, Lin Muyu will kneel down and apologize to me, Gong Sun, in front of everyone. Everyone raised their weapons and cheered. This group of people's ability to jeer was indeed not simple. The two teams passed by each other, and the farce was temporarily stopped. But Lin Muyu knew that this matter was far from over. The Divine Marquis Residence's hostility towards her was getting stronger, and there were actually people from the Divine Marquis Residence in the Imperial Guards. This Zhi Yifan was too omnipotent. Was this the rhythm of having students all over the world? Wei Chou urged his horse to follow Lin Muyu, and said in a low voice, thank you, sir. What are you thanking me for? You're still so polite with me. He smiled lightly. Sir. Wei Chou wanted to say something, but stopped. After a few seconds, he said, I am the son of Ing Ji, even my name is my mother's surname. Will you look down on me? Lin Muyu suddenly stopped her horse, and with a serious expression, she said, don't say such things in the future. I don't care what your background is, you are my companion, and also my brother. I will not tolerate anyone bullying you in front of me, and I will never look down on you. That's all. Is there anything else you want to ask? No. No more, then let's go quickly, we must hunt down the golden-scaled beast before the winter sacrifice ceremony. This is not a boast, if we really can't find the golden-scaled beast, I will have to kneel down to that grandson and apologize. You also don't want to see me kneel down to that kind of person and apologize, right? Wei Chou was relieved, and a smile emerged on his face. He urged his horse to catch up and said, no, we will definitely find the golden-scaled beast. Yes. When night fell, the team arrived at the edge of the dragon-seeking forest. In the distance, more than 10 Imperial guards were patrolling. The one in the lead, holding a long spear, galloped over on his horse, and said, who is it? Wei Chou set up a torch, and Lin Muyu took out his waist token, saying, Eagle Guard Lin Muyu, under orders to enter the dragon-seeking forest to hunt the required spirit beasts. This Imperial Guard general was a centurion, and his rank was originally higher than Lin Muyu's, but once he heard that he was an Imperial Guard, he immediately showed a respectful expression, and said, Sir, you must be careful entering the dragon-seeking forest so late at night. The swift wolves are most active at night, and we have already hunted down many swift wolves on the outskirts to prevent them from coming down the mountain and harming the people of the small village. Yes, thank you for the reminder. Lin Muyu urged his horse past, and led the 50 elites behind him into the dragon-seeking forest. This forest was actually protected, and ordinary hunters and cultivators were not qualified to enter the dragon-seeking forest at all. Of course, the forest was too big, and there were not that many soldiers to protect it, so they only set up a checkpoint on the side adjacent to the imperial capital. They did not encounter any obstacles along the way, and a few swift wolves appeared, but they were all easily taken care of by a few imperial guards in less than 400 years. At midnight, Lin Muyu gave the order to set up camp. They set up camp in a steep terrain. As the highest-ranking general of this small team, Lin Muyu was arranged to be in a cave, but he did not mind. He ate something early and prepared to rest. Leaning against the stone wall, he slowly fell asleep. The spirit pulse technique naturally extended out, and he felt the pulse of the surrounding earth, air, and energy. The Imperial Guards had already entered a deep sleep, and only the 7 Imperial Guards on night patrol had a stronger aura fluctuation. It seemed that after nearly a month of training in the Tong Tian Tower, their souls had become even stronger. On top of that, Lin Muyu did not feel tired even after using the 3rd luminescence twice in a row. He could not help but feel excited. It seemed like he should be eyeing the 7 luminescence demon monarch's 4th luminescence. After all, after stepping into the heaven realm, it was impossible for him to advance at the same speed as before. In fact, Lin Muyu had been stuck at level 60 for a long time, but this kind of thing could not be rushed, and had to be done slowly. As for his true combat strength, it was still increasing, especially after obtaining the 3rd luminaries. His combat strength was on a completely different level from before. He slowly retracted his spiritual sense and entered his E-High. Hua! He materialized above the E-High, holding the burning prairie sword, his temple battle robe fluttering in the wind. A few hundred meters below him was the endless water of the E-High. He raised his palm, and an invisible force forcefully separated the seawater. Here, Lin Muyu's strength could be infinitely increased. In other words, he was a god here. He leaped into the depths of the E-High, and after flying for a long time, he finally saw a person sitting quietly in the chaotic space. It was the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. What, you're here to see me again? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor did not even need to raise his head to know who it was. Other than this damned brat, it could not be anyone else. Lin Muyu smiled, Demon Emperor, long time no see. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor heard this and knew that it was not a good thing. He raised his head and said, what do you want this time? Why don't you give me the power of the 4th luminaries? Lin Muyu asked in a negotiating tone. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor gritted his teeth, you bastard, you still want this Emperor's 7 luminaries Xian energy? You're courting death. It was another backlash in his soul form. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's body suddenly expanded. His palms were densely covered with stars, and he directly used the 7 luminary star transformation. But this time, the strength of Lin Muyu's soul couldn't be compared to the previous time. With a wang sound, the refining cauldron enveloped the Demon Emperor. The 5th layer of flames, hellfire fell, burning the soul of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor until it howled miserably. The power of the 7 luminary star transformation was also annihilated. Are you giving it to me? He asked. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor would rather die than surrender. I'd rather die than surrender. Then I'll take it myself. Under the tempering of the hellfire, the soul of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor slowly emitted some energy and was completely refined by the refining cauldron. Suddenly, a group of ghosts roared and rushed inside the refining cauldron. Lin Muyu hurriedly raised her palm. An invisible hand quickly grabbed these ghosts and refined them. Instantly, a powerful force filled her body. She had obtained a new ability, for luminaries Demon God's Cry. Phew, slowly opening her eyes, Lin Muyu raised her right palm and slowly exerted force. Immediately, a demon god constellation condensed in her palm. It was the sound of the 4 luminaries Demon God's Cry. However, her blood also felt like it was swelling and her head was about to split open. As expected, her soul wasn't strong enough to control the overbearing power of the 4 luminaries Demon God's Cry. But this was enough. Her soul would become stronger and stronger. Now that she had the 4th luminaries, she could use it when her soul was strong enough. Chapter 124. The moonlight shone on the imperial capital's pavilion of raindrops, and a soothing melody could be heard from the pavilion. The melody rose and fell, as though it was narrating a young lady's state of mind. Chu Huayin stood in front of the curtain in a daze, as though he was intoxicated by the melody. He recalled all the hardships he had experienced over the years, and he could not help but feel emotional. It was as though the melody could read his mind and caress the softest part of his heart. Today, all his pursuits seemed to have changed. His grandfather was killed, and Chu Yao came to the capital. Everything was like a dream. What was he pursuing? The pinnacle of martial arts? He sighed softly. Where was the pinnacle of martial arts? Not long after, the melody ended. The beaded curtain was slowly lifted, and a maid smiled and said, "Sir Chu Huayin, my lady invites you in for a chat." Chu Huayin was flattered and nodded. "Yes." Another royal guard patted his shoulder and smiled. "Go, go. It's your fortune that Lady Xianxia is willing to meet you. To be honest, I'm so envious of you." Chu Huayin smiled awkwardly and stepped into the inner courtyard. He saw a beautiful young girl sitting next to a zither. Her beautiful eyes were staring at him. This was none other than the daughter of the deity Marquis, Zheng Yifan, Zheng Xiang. "Sir Chu, please take a seat." Zhenxiang smiled and ordered, "Prepare some tea for Sir Chu." "Yes." The maid walked over slowly and poured a cup of tea for Chu Huayin. "Sir Chu, what do you think of the song I played?" Zhenxiang asked with a faint smile. Chu Huayin was a little absent-minded and hurriedly said, "This song should only be heard in the heavens." "Lady Xianxia, how do you know me?" I'm just a small royal guard." Zhenxiang laughed and said, "Sir Chu, do you remember the sword duel tournament 3 years ago? You used the star-plucking finger to consecutively defeat more than 10 experts, but ultimately lost to Feng Jixing's wind-walking saber technique. What a pity. At that time, this little girl was at the side of the stage, and personally witnessed Lord Chu's unparalleled talent." Chu Huayin couldn't help but blush. That was just a small trick. It's nothing compared to Miss Zhenxiang's zither music. Cheng Xiang gently smiled. Among the outstanding talents of the imperial capital, Feng Jixing and Qin Lei's martial arts can be said to be the best, but they are not proficient in music. Only Lord Chu is a true all-rounder. Today, I have invited Lord Chu here so that you can give me some pointers on my zither melody. I don't dare. Chu Huaijin cupped his fists in fear and said, "I don't dare to guide Miss with my shallow music. I've lived in the capital for so many years, and Miss Zhenxiang's music can be considered the best. Only Her Highness Yin's Song of Lan Yen can compete with it." "Hee, it's Xiao Yin." Zhenxiang covered her mouth and chuckled. "It's no wonder that it's her. Xiao Yin is exceptionally intelligent and has excellent comprehension skills. Her attainments in music are definitely above mine." "Oh right, Official Chu, I heard that your younger sister, Chu Yao, is already in the capital?" "Yes." Chu Huaimin said, "Miss, why are you asking about Yao?" Zhenxiang's gaze was somewhat gloomy. Lord Chu should also understand that the conflict between the Divine Marquis residence and the Imperial Guard is becoming more and more intense. Father and brother are extremely angry because of this every day. This time, I have invited you here in order to resolve the conflict between the Divine Marquis residence, the Imperial Guard and the Divine Temple. Chu Huaijin's heart trembled. "May I ask what Miss is thinking?" Zhenxiang sighed faintly and looked deeply at Chu Huaijin with her beautiful eyes. "I won't hide it from you. After we parted at the sword competition 3 years ago, I still can't forget you. Perhaps you don't even know of my existence, but I have you in my heart. These few days, Father has been forcing me to marry the military police commander, Xiang Yu. Zhenxiang knows that Xiang Yu is arrogant and ruthless. If Lord Chu also has me in his heart, I hope that Lord," as she spoke, Xianxia's face turned red. She stood up and bowed like a virtuous lady. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. I hope that Lord Chu can come to the Divine Marquis residence to propose marriage. I am willing to spend the rest of my life with you. Chu Huijin's body trembled. Joy and shock mixed together. After a while, he cupped his fists and said, Chu Huijin is just a commoner. I'm afraid that his status is not good enough for Miss. Xianxia was stunned. She sat down and said with a desolate look on her face, since Lord Chu doesn't allow it, I'll forget about it. The servant beside her looked indignant and said, Lord Chu, my miss has poured her heart out to you. Why are you so heartless? Don't you have miss in your heart at all? My miss, in terms of appearance and talent, she is one of the few in Lanyan City. I remember that a year ago, my miss was ranked third in the ranking of beauties in Lanyan City. Chu Zhe, do you know that 2 years ago, my miss went to the Emperor's hunting expedition from afar just to take a look at you? In the end, you didn't go. She stood in the first snow of Lanyan City for 8 hours. A year ago, my miss still insisted on going to the Imperial Guard's martial arts competition to select new talents. This time, she saw you, but you didn't take a look at her. My miss is so devoted to you, but why is my lord so heartless? Chu Huijin was also anxious. In fact, he had already fallen in love with Xianxia's music. However, this had happened so suddenly that he wasn't mentally prepared at all. It's not that Chu Huijin doesn't have miss in his heart, it's just that, Chu Huijin frowned and muttered to himself, Lin Muyu is my brother. He and the young Marquis are enemies. If I go to the Divine Marquis residence to propose marriage now, I'm afraid it won't be appropriate. Chu Huijin doesn't want to betray Miss, but he also doesn't want to betray Lin Muyu's brotherhood. His words made Xianxia blush. After a long time, she raised her face and smiled. There's no rush to propose marriage. It's fine as long as Lord Chu has me in his heart. Chu Huijin cupped his fists and said, I hope Miss won't blame me for being rude. Give me a little more time, I won't disappoint you. Xianxia smiled sweetly, but she was so shy that her face was flushed. She wanted to look at Chu Huijin, but she didn't dare to. She lowered her head and stammered for a while before saying, then can Lord Chu come again tomorrow? Chu Huijin was stunned. Miss, I'm on duty tomorrow. When will Lord Chu be free? The day after tomorrow, then let's meet here the day after tomorrow. What does Lord Chu think? Chu Huijin blushed and said awkwardly, this. Chu Huijin is a commoner. His salary as a royal guard is only average. Why don't we meet at a cheaper place next time? I'm afraid it'll be unfair to Mississippi. Xianxia giggled and looked at him deeply. It's not unfair at all. Wherever you are, it's a wonderful place. Then, Chu Huijin will return to Zhe Tian Palace. We can't delay for too long. Xianxia will send you off. In the night, Chu Huijin and Xianxia walked out of the pavilion of raindrops side by side. They didn't know that a pair of eyes was staring at them from the pavilion. It was a skinny man around 30 years old. His face was filled with jealousy and hatred. Chu Huijin, you bastard. How dare you try to get your hands on my Mississippi? If the Divine Marquis finds out, he'll make you wish you were dead. Xianxia and Chu Huijin naturally didn't know that danger was approaching. They were still immersed in the joy of their first love. This day was very important to both of them. The happiest thing in the world was knowing that the person you love also loves you. The cries of wild pheasants broke the silence of the night. A ray of sunlight pierced through the clouds. The sky was bright. Lin Muyu woke up from her sleep. She had a good sleep. She had replenished all the energy she had lost in the Tower of Babel. She sat up and waved her arms. She felt that her body was full of battle energy. Her body had reached its peak. It was just enough for her to put her strength to good use in the upcoming Eagle Guard mission. Sir, you're awake? Wei Chou smiled respectfully from afar. The Spiritual Fire Division has prepared breakfast. We can continue our journey after we finish eating. All right. The Spiritual Fire Division was actually the name of the Empire's army's kitchen. It just sounded nicer. In the team of 50 people led by Lin Muyu, 5 of them were responsible for cooking. Hence, there were only 5 Spiritual Fire Division members in this team. However, it was still very important. After all, food was very important when the army was on the move. Breakfast was not bad. There were 2 pieces of army biscuits and a bowl of meat soup. The meat soup was made from the meat of the swift wolves they killed yesterday. The meat tasted a little fishy, but it was already good enough to have a bite of meat to eat. Lin Muyu finished her breakfast in a few bites. She clapped her hands and said, Wei Chou, bring the map of the dragon-seeking forest over. Yes, sir. She opened the map. This was a royal map. Every team in the Eagle Guard had one. The details of the map were very detailed. Lin Muyu took out the mission list and smiled. I really don't know where to start. Wei Chou also smiled. He pointed at the map and said, the autumn leaves have withered. The fire-type spirit beasts will start hibernating in the next few days. The autumn wind is biting cold. I think winter will come very early this year. Let's go to the southeast side of the dragon-seeking forest to look for fire-type spirit beasts. There's no rush for the rest. Where are the fire-type spirit beasts mainly concentrated? The Deadwood Stone Forest. That's good. Wei Chou, you lead the way. Yes, sir. After breakfast, everyone got on their horses and set off after extinguishing the bonfire. The spirit beasts they met along the way were not very strong. The strongest one was no more than 2,000 years old. Therefore, Wei Chou and the other Imperial Guards were in charge of taking care of them. As for the Imperial Guards, most of them were in the human realm. Their mission was basically to carry things and shoot arrows from afar. When they really met a strong spirit beast, they could not directly participate in the battle because it was too easy to be killed. Lin Muyu had already made up her mind to stay in the Eagle Nest camp. Therefore, these people would be her bodyguards in the future. She could not let them die so easily. Otherwise, she would be a failure as a centurion. In the middle of the night, a 2,400-year-old wild bear ambushed the hunting party, but Lin Muyu pierced through its heart with her pear blossom spear. With just one strike, she killed a 2,400-year-old spirit beast. Everyone was immediately convinced, and the unity of the whole group naturally became stronger. Marching, resting, and cultivating. This had completely become Lin Muyu's life here. Unknowingly, 3 days had passed. The team finally arrived at a very barren forest. It was the Deadwood Stone Forest. There were burn marks everywhere. There were many fire-type spirit beasts living here. It was also a good place to hunt 4,000+ years old fire-type spirit beasts. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.